If they've got big CVs, then they'll interfere with your stuff.
Dewey, what? Go downstairs and above the washer,
Maybe I have service for a
there is
little
a
while. I'm
brand
in
new
North
bottle
Mississippi, and
of Dress.
we're beside some pretty bad
The
weather here.
baby shampoo, or not the
That's fine.
shampoo, but the
We'll probably be holding another space later on down the road to
Okay.
reiterate on some of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, to me, being on the trucker side, a lot of the things that the brokers are saying, you kind of do understand what I'm saying because you've already told me you have two different divisions. One to form a relationship with carriers and find out what they need, and the other one to find out what your customers are actually looking at, and you're drawing your margin up in the middle, which is fine, right? But if brokers are going in there and racing everything to the bottom, because they don't know how to bid loads, who's the real problem? Because yeah, a carrier will take it because they need to get to the area that they feel they can make more money in. They don't understand that they shouldn't be taking any of that cheap freight and they should leave it on the dock. Because here's the problem: somebody in that area understands how much the freight is actually worth, and they're screwing them by taking the load. And that's what
Right,
we're
but
teaching people.
we bid against
Yeah.
large carriers every day.
Mm-hmm.
so I'm good. That way you and Dewey.
But bidding against somebody to the bottom doesn't help the
Well, I mean,
situation.
large carrier, I
If
get out,
it's
but you're not getting it's not a one person issue. It's not a one entity issue. I get bid against by large brokers, large carriers, small carriers that are trying to get out of areas every day. So what happens is a lane becomes a
Yeah, we're not saying
commodity.
that it's one entity
A
either.
lane becomes a commodity, and like you
We're
can use an extreme to prove an example, like say Miami in February for a dry van.
mm-hmm.
Well, you've got carriers like, I mean, Swift. I mean, I can go on and on and on. CR England's reefer, but for the most part, but we have large carriers we bid against every day, and that does push prices down. And what happens is a lane in the spot market is based on supply and demand. And if you have a lot of carriers in that area and or brokers, or collectively both, that are bidding on that lane because there's more trucks than freight, it drives it down. All of a sudden, what it costs for a truck to run has no value to the process, and that's
Then
where
they
you've
should
got a
leave
problem.
then they should leave the freight on the dock.
But
And then
you're
you have a
talking,
real
you're what?
problem because nobody has the ability to move the load in the whole system, whether or not it's the carrier or whether or not
I,
it's the shipper,
I, I,
the
I
receiver, or the broker. It doesn't matter.
I
They have
understand your
no
point.
assets in it.
I understand your point, but here's the problem. Most of you guys have a load on the back of your trucks right now, or some of you do. And I don't know what the
No.
commodity is. It doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Most of you have no idea or don't care at all what it costs that manufacturer to import, make, or produce that product. You don't care. You don't know or care. You know that load pays you $2.85 a mile or whatever it pays. You don't care
Mm-hmm.
what it costs that manufacturer to make that product. All you know is what it costs you to run and it costs you to run your business. That's what
Okay.
happens when everyone's bidding on freight. And
Well,
people hate
again,
to
like
hear.
I
Wait,
said,
let me finish, and then I promise I'll shut up. So
mm-hmm.
once again, you have people pulling product, furniture. They don't know what it costs to make a couch, and let's be honest, they don't care what it costs to make a couch. You don't care what it costs to make the product behind your truck right now. And that's the same way with big brokers, big carriers that are just trying to get to certain spots. They will always pull it less for less.
Well, hold on. You bring up an important subject here. Okay, so all these shippers were saying we're going to have to cut down from having our employees because we can't afford the cost of freight, right?
No, you
The
said
cost of
that. I
freight
didn't say
went
that.
down.
Who said that?
No, that's what they said. That's what
Who?
they
Who is
said.
they?
The shippers.
What shippers are saying they're cutting down their employees because of the cost of
A
freight? Were you
lot of
talking
them were. A
like in
lot of them
COVID
were.
or what time period?
And just recently, they were
What
saying that they couldn't afford their employees.
Who
right?
is
Because
they?
shipping
I
was
don't
so
understand. I
high.
don't like freight
Okay,
rates have been
I'm going to say it
depressed.
one more time. Shippers.
Like what shippers? That's a pretty broad statement. I'm asking you to define it in a more narrative. In a
Several
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 shippers.
different
I'm not going
shippers
to
have
tell
said
you
that.
names. I'm not giving you names if that's what you're hoping for.
no,
It's
I
not
mean
happening.
listen, sir. I've got 385 customers. I don't need your customers. I promise you. I've got plenty.
I
That's not
I
my
don't have
deal.
any customers. I'm telling you what I found out.
Okay, so
I'm telling you
shippers
the
are
people that have come
complaining.
out of the woodwork and told me these situations, like the guy that told me that he was paying $12,000 for a load, and that's on a lane that I can pull up all day long on the load board, which is
All right.
part of the TIA. Okay, both that and truck stop are part of the
Yeah, that's
TIA, the
fine. I know that.
transportation
Yeah,
intermediate.
I
Okay,
get.
so
I get
that's
that.
that's that. What's that called? Okay, what's that
Well,
called
wait.
when
I'm still confused. I'm
supposed
still
tools
confused.
that we're supposed to use? Hold on. What is that called when the supposed tools we're supposed to use that are supposed to be neutral are actually part of the system that is actually trying to regulate us and take the money out of our
Okay,
pockets
I get your
and
point on
makes their
that.
money, hold on, makes their money by the gross annual income of their customers. So what is that called?
All right, so I'm still confused about the first part, and I'm obviously confused. I want to make sure I've got this right.
Okay.
You've got shippers have told you that their cost of shipping has gone up too much, so they're having to lay
Exactly.
off employees.
Yeah, exactly.
Shipping
Their
rates.
costs,
Oh,
their
wait.
costs.
It's really hard for me to talk when you're talking. We can't really have a conversation, and you seem to get emotional rather than trying to be
Oh,
logical.
I'm
I'm just
very
asking
emotional.
questions.
That's why I'm putting forth what
Well,
I've
I
done.
can't. It's hard for me to comprehend everything with someone raising their voice and talking when I talk. So maybe I'm the slow guy, and I'm perfectly fine if you want to label me as that. But I'm trying to understand your point. So you answered my question. You said that you had shippers saying that. My rebuttal to that, again, from a macro standpoint, it is factual. It's not anecdotal. It's not something you heard. It's finite numbers. Freight rates have gone down in the spot and contract market.
Hold on. Who
What I
makes
can't
those?
finish. I can't
Who makes
finish,
it?
man. We can't.
But no, we
That's
can't.
fine. Can I?
If you're not going to listen and stop going on the same track, you're right. We can't conversate because who makes those analytics? Who is it? Comes from DAT, truck stop, the sonar. All those things are all in cahoots with the TIA, so it all boils back down to a system that they use to drive the market down, and you think it's real numbers.
So you don't think where do I find real data then?
You know why? Do you know why truly the actual numbers dropped for freight just recently? That's because they
I was
pissed
still
off the
asking. So you
drivers.
did say they dropped. You are agreeing they
Yes,
dropped
they sure in the hell did.
based on
100% they did.
based
Do you
on
know
TI.
why?
Wait,
Do
again, I
you know
can't.
why?
Based on the TIA or based on DAT or based on truck stop or based on freight waves? What are you
No,
basing the
based
drop
on
on?
the fact when you call somebody, they don't want to give you what you used to get. Do you know why that happened?
So you've literally just told me in the last 2 minutes and 20 seconds
I
that
love the way that you're trying to gaslight this, but it
I'm
isn't
not
going to
trying to
happen.
gaslight. I'm literally asking a question, trying to understand. You literally, but you're contradicting yourself, or I'm not
I'm not
understanding you.
contradicting
Well,
anything.
you got to let me finish, man. I can't. So
Okay, go ahead.
you're telling me that shippers are saying they're having to lay off employees because freight wave rates are too high. And then 2 minutes later, you tell me freight rates have dropped because when you call and ask people about it,
Just recently, yes.
define recently, the last
Within
week, 2 weeks,
within
since
the
January.
within the last year,
Yep.
because
So
we
they're
were
not laying
actually
off
putting
employees
the
now.
rates
They're
out
not
No,
laying off
on
this was
employees now.
LinkedIn.
previous. This was previous. This was previous when I said that they were saying that they couldn't have employees as many as they needed employees. See, that's why I was sitting in a dock. That was their excuse for me
Okay, so
sitting
you
in a
didn't
dock for
quantify that.
15 hours.
You
Okay,
didn't
hold on.
quantify that.
But
I
see,
so
I'm on both sides. I'm on both sides, right? I've seen what the truck drivers go through. And I've asked the question of what the hell is going on here? Why can't your loader not load me 5,000 pounds over on my drives? Are they new or something? Well, yes, they are. Well, why are they new? Well, because we couldn't afford the ones that we were actually, had experience doing it, so we had to let them go. But we still have to have somebody to load your truck. Okay, that's what I was getting on that side. Now, that was previous. Now, I'm going to tell you why the rates dropped, and you're not going to like it. People like me and other drivers put the load boards that you can't get on unless you have an MC. We put them directly out on LinkedIn for the customer to see how much we were actually making. That dropped the rates because they said, hey, wait a minute. I'm paying $1.60 for the load to move, but I'm paying the broker $4 a mile? Hell no. So they said, I'll give you $1.60 plus 15%. That's what happened. Now the loads are dropping even more, and you're going to see it happen again because people are already talking about, I'm going to put the load boards up again. I'm going to do this.
We're in two different worlds. My sales this year are right at or a little bit above where they were last year.
Okay.
So
well, get ready for that to change.
I guess we're in two different worlds because.
Get ready for that to change.
Well, again, no one has a crystal ball. You just got through telling me rates were going to go up. We're going to see a drastic change. Now you're literally.
No, what's going to happen? I already told you. The people that were driving those trucks, they didn't leave and go to a big company like usually happens. They left the industry.
I know they
now
did.
You've got
I
now
agree.
you've
we
got
do
people,
agree on that.
Okay.
We definitely
now
agree
you've
on
got
that.
Hold on. Now you've got people that come in that don't speak English on a H-2B visa, and everybody's bitching that everything's getting messed up. They're running over people. They're driving with their feet on the dash. That's all coming to an end. So when all those are not allowed to drive, who's left?
We do find common ground
hold
there.
on.
I do agree with you on that.
I'm going to go further. They're trying to go autonomous. Do you think you're needed once it's autonomous? Because that's only Warner, Strider, JB Hunt. You think that I'm going to be able to afford an autonomous truck? You're not needed anymore, my friend. Small brokers aren't needed anymore. In fact, the large brokers aren't even needed because the owner of the truck is the only one that needs to get money off that truck. So you're not needed as a broker. So you take it all the way to the end, okay? When we're gone, you're gone too. That's all there is to it. So that's the end all result.
It sounds like a nuclear bomb going off, and we're just going to all be without jobs. To me, I mean, here's the reality.
Yeah, pretty much.
I could quit today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have,
because you got plenty of money in the bank.
Is that a bad
Why is that?
thing?
Why do I have no money in the bank and I'm the one that did all the freaking work? I'm the one that was up fighting the traffic through Chicago. Why do I have no money in the bank, but you have money in the bank?
I guess because
I'm
I got
upside down,
customers
but you
and
got money in the bank.
Did you get customers? Did you work?
That's my customer too. But I didn't make enough to actually supply to support my business because you did. You made more than enough. You just said it. I got more than enough money in the bank.
No, you said that. I said I don't have any
No,
bills.
that's what you just said on a recorded space.
Well, I said, and I know it's recorded. I said I could quit today. I mean, if they made brokering,
and you got plenty.
I can't. It's really hard.
How many of us have plenty? Other than brokers?
First of all, that's subjective to find plenty. And second of all, I don't know how many people do. I don't know how many people have plenty. I have no idea.
Well, again, like I said, everybody says
you don't have to repeat it.
Well, no, I don't, because it's on recording. Again, like I said, brokers have said this to me numerous times. I got a broker that told me he made $9,000 on a load, and he gave the driver $2,500 to $3,000, and they were happy because it was above market rates. Right? So he wasn't worried about that.
Do you think
and then when he found out,
I interrupted. No, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering. I'm just asking. I don't know the details on the load. I'm not justifying that. What I'm saying is, do you think the shipper paid him crazy amount at the last minute, or
he made $2.8 million in the year that I lost $170,000? He made $2.8 million as an individual broker. So you tell me, did he make too much? Did he take too much?
Well, you're talking,
and he's got the same attitude.
You're talking.
He's got the same attitude. Hold on. He's got the same attitude that I will find somebody to run the load cheaper. I don't care. I'll give you transparency, but I'll never give you another dime. That's why I have the attitude that I'll never haul your load again. And when more people feel like me, you better buy a truck.
Or put it on rail. But here's my other
Oh,
question.
okay. That's so funny. See, here's the thing. My brother actually ran a switch yard. The rail is overran with freight. They have too much. So put
I
it on the
can
rail.
I can put it. I
Maybe
put.
the public can go pick it up from there too, because it doesn't need a
You're
truck
getting,
from the
sir.
rail.
You're getting upset again. We can't. You're getting like
You're
animate.
right.
You're very
You're
animated,
right.
and I'm trying to
You're
have a
right.
logical baseline
Oh, we're having a
conversation with you.
logical conversation.
So,
All right,
first
let
of
me
all, the
let me throw a
rail.
little
I can go put
let me
stuff
throw a
on the
break in.
ramp today. There's certain ramps that are congested, but you can get in gates in most markets right now. That's not a true statement.
Great. Get it from the rail to the store.
Well,
Let's see how much
that's
luck you
on
have.
truck. You're right. That's drayage, and there's plenty of
Okay.
dray operators.
Okay. So there's plenty of drayage operators,
Well,
and they're all
I wait.
forming a union
Wait
against
just a
you.
second. I'm painting with a broad
There's
brush. Let me
plenty of
correct
drayage
myself.
operators, and I know that they're
Let me
forming a union
let
against you.
let me correct myself. There's plenty of drayage operators in most markets, not all. So
Okay,
I want to
but
make
let
that
me
clear.
recorrect you. They're forming a union against you. So put it on the rail and see how much you pay to have it moved from the rail to the store. See how that works out for you. Because you're going to pay more to them once they form their union than you ever paid for us to take it from the customer to the receiver. So feel free, put it on the rail. It'll
Okay.
be congested. It'll take more time to get there. And once it gets there, you're going to pay more than what we were asking to get it to the store.
Well, then we would put it back on a truck if the trucks were asking less. That doesn't make
They're
me a
not
bad
going to
guy.
be
People
asking
go
less.
towards.
That's
Well,
what
you
I'm
just
saying. They're
said they
forming a
would. You just
union
said the rail would
against
be
you.
asking more. Now you're saying you just
No, no,
literally
no, no,
said
no,
the
no,
rail would
no,
be
no,
more
no. You
asking
you
more than
missed
you
the
are.
point. I said the rail's going to take you longer to get it there, and once you get it there, the drayage operators that are forming a union against you are going to charge you more than what I would have charged you to move it from point A to point B. So
So
one,
could I
it's going
go
to
back
take
to
you
you then?
longer.
Then could
No,
I go back to you
no,
then?
hell no.
Okay, so it's just a one time and no go.
That's kind of what the announcement is tonight with my new little program that I made. Because see, the brokers pissed off a programmer, and well, I took it upon myself to make changes that will affect the industry if it's used.
Okay. You know what's somewhat comical about this whole conversation, and rates being down is not comical, so don't. I'm not saying that. But what's comical about this is we've talked about everything but selling and getting customers. That's the change.
No, no. The thing is we said, what is a broker? Most brokers will say somebody that goes out and finds a load and then
That's
gives it
selling.
to
That's my
somebody
point. You're
else.
proving my point. Yes, that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what most brokers are. You just proved my point. Exactly.
100%.
Most brokers, we spend most of our time selling to customers and most of our time building relationships with carriers. That way we're not dat rats. That way we're not just based on the spot market all the time. Now, there's times when we have to go to the spot market. Everyone's got those. You fall off the last minute load from a customer. You know, we can go story over story over story. But as a general rule, in my eyes, the best way to run a brokerage is to build relationships with carriers and know freight they want and know where their loads need to originate from, find customers there, build capacity there, and that way you're meeting everyone's needs.
Yeah, hold on. I lost my co-host, so I've got to bring him back up. I need to invite the other co-host up because we'll lose the room otherwise. I don't know why he keeps on losing his stuff, but give me a second.
Because of my data. But so put it this
Yeah,
way:
your co-host.
the company that I was working for has freight that comes out of North Carolina, their own freight that they were having moved from North Carolina to Washington on the rail. The company decided to actually start sending trucks out there because it was costing them too much to move it on the rail. Not only that, it was taking too long to get to Washington because it was
That
backed
that
up on the
happens. I
rail.
can see that. Sure, I can see that.
But you just said that you don't care if the drivers stop hauling your freight, you'll put it on rail.
Well, that's what a lot of people do. They'll put it on rail as much as they
And
can.
when
But then
all
you
of
had a good
you,
point about the drayage. I'm not. Listen. I'm not. Listen. I want to make sure I clarify something. I'm not saying you can move freight without trucks. Okay. But I am saying if freight rates go up really, really, really high, which like let's just use COVID for an example. If freight rates go up really, really high, people convert to rail. And guess what happened in COVID? To your point, rail became congested. It pivoted for a little while. Nothing stays the same. And then you were exactly right during that period. Rail became very congested. Transit times took longer. Ramps were congested. Gate
It's still
times. There were less
congested
dray.
now.
it's still
Well,
congested
it
now.
depends on the ramp, guys. I can find ramps right now where I can put stuff on easily. It's
And
not a
you can
problem.
That's
put
Y'all
it
got
on. It
plenty of
doesn't
exactly
mean
why
easy
that
the
freight.
company
it's
I was
going to get.
working for started taking trucks out to North Carolina to get their freight so they
Right.
could
That
get
was a
it off
congested
of the
ramp.
rail.
I agree with. I'm sure. I
That
don't
and
disagree.
that
I'm
and
not
that's
saying
just
don't.
recent.
Yeah. Okay.
That
Well, that ramp became congested, or that area became congested. Charlotte or wherever it is became congested, and it was more efficient for them, economically efficient for them to put it on trucks. And it took some rail runs too long. Obviously, the customer wasn't happy. They needed the product there quicker. Rail did not deliver like they should have, so they put it on trucks. That happens all the. It goes back and forth, guys.
Well,
But
like I said,
we're painting with a broad brush. We can't say all rail ramps are congested. That's just not a
like I
true
said,
statement.
you can put it on rail before it'll ever go on my truck.
And that's
That's your choice. It'll
that's
never go
perfect.
on my truck.
I'm just gonna throw this in there. Freight doesn't give a fuck about either side's feelings.
No, it
And
doesn't.
you have AI systems that are coming in. You guys ever heard of the Hey Bubba system?
Mm-hmm.
That's about ready to squash a lot of
We
shit.
use
Who
AI
knows what the hell
daily.
that's gonna
I
do?
use AI every day. We use AI in bidding. We use AI on
Then you're
emails.
working yourself out of
Yeah,
a
there's a
job.
full blown AI platform.
Maybe we
Then you're
are.
working your
It's
way out
but
of a
here's the
job.
reality: all of these huge brokers. You know, CH would be one you would mention. You know, what are the? I don't know what their market cap is. Probably
Has
13
not one
billion.
truck.
I didn't say it was. You know, but you take someone like C.H. Robinson that's say 13 billion market cap, and I'm pretty close. I'm not far off, I would bet. Or J.B. Hunt, that's they've got assets, a supposed ton of intermodal. What are they? 14, 13 billion. You know, they're in the,
Begging for drivers. That's what they are.
and I'm sure they are,
Continue.
but they also help control markets, whether you and I like it or not, because they're so large. They're using
Yeah,
AI.
and
Everyone's using AI.
well, they can use AI all they want, and they're going to push
I know
themselves
they
out of
can. I
business.
know they can use AI. They'll want. You don't have to tell me that. I know that.
So here's the thing, right? It doesn't matter. You can use AI all you want. Just understand you're working your way out of a job. So I mean, keep rat holing your money because you're going to need it.
Well, here's the thing about I go back to what I said before about working yourself out of a job. Well, I didn't say it about working yourself out of a job. I talked about selling.
Mm-hmm.
Selling is based on relationships. We can have all the AI we want. We can do all that we want. I had a salesman a while ago in Nashville. He took a customer to eat dinner. You know, they were talking
That's
about their
illegal.
kids. No, and you told me that before on another site. Taking
It's
someone to
it's
buy a
in
hamburger.
it's in it's
Okay, well
in the
then,
top of the
all right. Well
bubble.
then,
It
let me
is
rephrase it.
illegal.
Okay, so he took
it's actually
someone
not
and
anymore because we started the
yeah,
new phase.
you can take someone to buy dinner. I don't. If it's illegal, come wet my head with the electric chair and put me out of my misery. But anyway, he took someone to eat dinner. They have a relationship. He has a relationship with that customer. That customer is going to give him freight because he provides better service and they know who he is and they trust him. That's not AI. Now, can we mix AI in and use it like Chat GTP to help write an email like I did earlier today? Sure. Did I get called out on it when someone said you didn't write that? And I said, of course I didn't. You called me. Sure, that's going to happen too. I'm not smart enough to verb it like chat or to use the language Chat GTP does. You know,
Let's see. Here's how serious I am about it. If anybody calls me and it is an automated system, I just hang up on it. It
You're
is,
exactly
hi,
right. You're
you've
proving my
reached me.
point. You're
Hi,
proving
you've
my
reached
point
me at
because
this.
you're exactly right because you want a relationship with someone. You want to hear a human.
Mm-hmm.
You're exactly right. There's number two we can agree on. We can agree on two things so far tonight. We might not like other parts, but I can agree with you on that. Yes.
No, like I
People
said,
want to
it's
talk to human beings that they
exactly.
can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that standpoint, you're
Yeah, what's
going to be
happening in
less
my
freight.
system?
Yeah.
There you go.
Will there be more people use it? I mean, less freight with brokers? Probably. But we're going to always have the weird stuff, the multi-drop open deck, or I can go whatever scenario you want to hear, where a bot's not going to fix it. So
Mm,
I disagree with you that
I,
brokers are working themselves totally out of a job. Now you
yeah,
just said you're a
they're totally.
coder, and I'm sure you've come up with something to prove all that wrong, and that's fine. We'll go that route if you want to. But as of right now, it's primal human nature back to the Pleistocene period, or when people came over the ice shelf in Alaska. We hunted in small family groups. We are social by nature, and people
Yeah.
are going to have relationships.
No, all the way to the point that they go autonomous. All the way that you work your way to autonomy and they actually shut down the roads to you actually getting on them. But we're not going to get into that whole conversation, but that's where it's headed. So if we keep on, you know, doing what we're doing now and saying, oh yeah, let's bring more technology forth that's going to take over more jobs and this, that, and the other, the end all goal is to put you in a city and you're going to stay there. You're going to do the job they
Yeah.
tell you to do.
Oh, Elon Musk's brain chip will make you stay there. And if you don't think that's real, there's over 300,000 people that already have it.
But anyway, we're not going to get into that whole conversation. We're here tonight to talk about what a brokerage truly is. And you kind of got the drift of what a brokerage is. Most brokerages think that they're going out, getting a load, getting as much as they possibly can, and then taking the percentage that they want out of the load. That is actually called day trading and is illegal. I think we lost him.
No, I'm back. I just got back in. If you were talking about me, somehow I went out and back in. All I heard was day trading illegal.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, I said mostly you understand it, right? You understand that you're an intermediate. You're supposed to make a relationship between driver and customer, or basically your two customers, and you get a commission for your load, right? For your services. You understand that that's how a brokerage actually works. Most brokerages feel that they go get a customer, it's my customer, I'm going to give you what I want or what I can get the load moved for. They don't understand that that's actually illegal. That's actually supposed to be separate. Your commission and the load's price are supposed to be two different things. Just like the fuel surcharge is supposed to be separate from your commission, right? And most people want to say, oh, well, that's not true. That's not true. But it's written in the laws. They're just not being enforced. Well, with what they found out at Matt's, a lot of this stuff is going to start getting enforced, and a lot of it is going to be you're going to get one shot and then you're out. You don't do it right, you're gone. And it doesn't matter what aspect you're in it.
The brokerage definition is in the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
That's off the FMCSA website.
Yeah. Oh man, all your stuff is gone. That sucks.
Yeah, I can't find it from the other space either.
Where's your carrot?
I already looked.
Well, if you didn't put it in the bottom, then yeah.
Where is it? Go get it.
I told you put it all in the file so you can just
Yeah, I
put it up.
put it in the
I'm just going to have you start sending
right,
it to
but
me and
it's
I'll
on
put
my
it in.
other phone.
Yeah. So come in with your other account and put it up.
He took that carrot.
No, he ate it.
I can't right now because my data on my other phone's not working right.
Okay. Anyway. From now on, whoever's hosting the space at home needs to have the folder of data, because this is like the second time that we've had this happen. And we can't really show people that, hey, this is the law. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. This is the law. It's just not being enforced. And we've got that data as well. I mean, I can put that up. I got that right here. I just need to go get it.
You mean actual law, not just regulation?
Actual law. It was written in the Carrier Act of 1980. That's law. It was written in
Okay.
MAP 21.
There's the reference point. Okay,
Yep.
because oftentimes we get talking about different things, and
Oh yeah, we
it
know,
gets
bro.
confused between regulation and what is law.
Yeah, bro.
They're
We know the
totally
difference
separate
between the
things.
law and I know.
Yeah.
We know the difference.
Yeah.
We've talked before. we know the difference. A lot of people don't. Like most people think, oh yeah, I can get rid of the ELD because it was Chevron doctrine and blah blah blah. No, it was written in under MAP 21. That makes it law. That makes it I can't think of the word, but it's exempt from Chevron doctrine.
Congress put it through.
Yeah, it's law. So anybody that wants to get rid of the ELD, good luck. There is a way that you can get it so that they can't use it like they are, because brokerages are currently using it for a geolocated map, so they know where every truck in the United States is at every time, any time of the day. So that's what it's actually being used for. That's why Highway, Kites, and RMIS are currently in cahoots with all of the ELD providers, and they are literally making a geolocated map. And when you give them permission to your ELD, you are giving them permission to all of your ELDs. You're giving them permission to the account, and they know where all your trucks are at. And that's what they're actually doing. So yeah, we're exposing some stuff.
Yeah, and that data isn't. Yeah, that data wouldn't ever be used at all to manipulate the freight market. Not at all.
No, that's what I just said.
Yeah,
They know
yeah,
where
right,
every
right.
one of your trucks are
Yeah.
at. Right.
Right.
They push it off as, oh, these are the trucks that left. Oh, these are the trucks that are coming back in.
Oh,
we
just need to know where the trucks are for security purposes of the load. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So brokers are going to find that to be really hard when we start getting our message out there and showing them the facts. Is, you're going to find it really hard to have a carrier put another one of those systems on their phone, because they're still tracking you after you drop the load indefinitely until you either stop it from tracking, and that means force stop the application because it's still tracking in the background, or delete it. So yeah, we're uncovering a lot of the things that, brokers are going to be a little pissed off about. Sorry. I mean, we know that, when a broker refers a fuel card, they get a cut of our discount on our fuel card when we're paying for the fuel. We know that they're not giving us our surcharge, even though they're charging a customer surcharge. That's ours, right? Why is it not in there as our surcharge? That's law. We know that. Like, all these little loopholes, brokers are not going to like us. We're exposing all that. Like I said, I hope you're one of the good ones.
So I just got the other regulation put up in the Jumbotron.
Thanks.
Where it shows it's illegal.
No, you can go ahead and read that. You can go ahead and read that. I'm going to shut up and mic out. But go ahead and read that real quick.
So under 49 CFR 371.10. No, wait. Sorry. Wrong. Yeah. Duties and the obligations of brokers, where the broker acts on behalf of a person bound by law of the FMCSA regulation as the transmittal of bills or payments. The broker must also abide by the law or regulations which apply of that person. Now, accounting. Each broker who engages in any other business shall maintain accounts so that the revenues hold on, give me a second. I gotta get somewhere so I could do this. I can't see what it actually is. It's hard to read. It's too small. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can
I
hear
was
you.
just giving you time, but yeah, in that regulation, you're going to hear that it says that you cannot buy anything for a customer other than you can buy non-expensive uh, advertising stuff like a pen and give them a pen. You cannot take them out to dinner. You cannot take them out to a ball game. You cannot give them a six pack. You cannot do any of that if it doesn't have their advertising logo on it. You can't give it to a customer. That's illegal. It's illegal to buy your customer. But you're going to hear that in a minute because we already read that in the first one. You can go back and listen to it, but he read the whole thing.
So if I sear Suntech on the steak, does that make it advertising?
If you do what?
If I get a sear and sear Suntech on the steak, on the Applebee's steak, the 2 for 20.
Cheap, inexpensive advertising.
How is that defined? Who defines that? That's
But that's a
anecdotal. Is
pin.
it?
That's a pin. Well, see, you're trying to circumvent the law, which
No, I'm
brokers have
not.
been
I'm
doing for a
asking.
long
I asked you a
time.
simple question. I just asked
Yeah,
you:
if I
is
get
a
them a
coffee
steak and
mug
I
or
go
a
and sear it
tumbler?
on a steak,
Yeah, I mean, is a
you know,
tumbler? How about a tumbler?
well, yeah, those are all cheap. You know,
Define
you
cheap, I
put
guess, is where I'm
something on the
going.
side of it.
Is there a line? Is it $25, $20, or?
I have no idea. All I know is what the law
Okay,
says.
okay.
I know that it has to be for advertising.
So
It
that's
can't be to
subjective
buy
then.
them.
Like I've sent people a T-shirt. Is that legal? Is that illegal?
I I don't know.
Well, I
Is
mean,
it?
If it has that shipper's advertising on it, no.
Yeah.
Because it's a cheap expense.
I'm literally asking. I'm not trying to be smart. I'm just wondering:
Well, I
I
mean, read
mean,
the regulation and you read between the lines and find out, whether or not it's actually, what you're talking about, or
I
if they're
mean,
just
like
being
I've
sarcastic.
had this conversation with you before
Okay,
in another somewhere. I can't remember
And
where.
now we have the
CFR
regulation.
49 CFR 371.9, rebating and compensation. A A broker shall not charge or receive compensation from a motor carrier for brokerage service where 1. The broker owns or has material beneficial interest in the shipment, or 2. The broker is able to exercise control over the shipment because the broker owns the shipper owns the broker, or there is common ownership of the two. B. A broker shall not give or offer to give anything of value to any shipper, consignor, or consignee, or their officers or employees, except in inexpensive advertising items given for promotional purposes. So, like a T-shirt, a pin of the brokerage with the brokerage name, anything like that, like cheap.
And it has
So,
to be advertisement.
it has to be advertisement.
It can't be a steak with you share your name in it. No, it can't. That's buying somebody. You can't go and get them a beer and take a black magic marker and put your name on the side of it. No, that doesn't work. Like, it's advertising, and we're not going to get into the sarcasm of it, but you know what advertising is. You're in a multi-million-dollar company. What's advertising? Right? I mean, we don't have to even have that conversation because you know what advertising is, and you just heard the regulation. So there's nowhere else to argue that they covered every basis of that, did they
You've
not?
never gone by a shipper and taken them 12 donuts from Krispy. Do you know how common
No,
that
sir.
is?
No,
Do you
sir.
not? I'm
That's
not.
illegal.
Uh,
That's illegal. Did you put? Is your name on it? Is it
yeah, it says
advertisement?
Krispy Kreme on it.
Exactly. So it's illegal.
Okay.
That is actually illegal. We don't
Okay.
have
You
to. We
said it
don't have
like
to
8 times
discuss
in the
that
last
anymore.
4 minutes.
I know, because you keep on saying, "Oh no, I can do this." So you can't throw a tailgate party? No, you can't. You cannot. Like, I
Okay.
remember who you are. I just proved that my point in that room that I'm no longer, a part of anymore. Okay, I just proved my point when I was in that room, in the TikTok room, because we all know where he came from, right? But it's law. It just isn't being regulated, right? But because of all the fraud that's happened in this industry, now they're getting in the middle of it, and the things that are happening, y'all ain't gonna like. You're not gonna like it at all.
Okay.
And
And
just to be clear, that is law because that's under the transparency law that was actually written into Motor Carrier Act of 1980. It
yep,
is in MAP 21.
yep. So that's law, not regulation.
It's number
Like
12.
so, again, like I said, brokers can keep on trying to circumvent all the laws, but we're here to announce what they actually are. Because again, you know, 2 years ago, I told brokers they could stop it at any time. All they had to do was start being fair, right? And they basically told me to piss up a rope, and we'd be done in 2 weeks, and they'd go back to work. And that was TQL that told me that. That was CH Robinson that told me that, right? But JB Hunt that told me that. It was JB Hunt that finally got a hold of me and said, "Hey, when are you going to stop doing this? How many people have to go out of work before you stop what you're doing?" And I said, "Every one of you." Because I gave you the chance to be fair. Every damn one of you.
I'm on a blacklist with TQL, CH Robinson, JB Hunt, and Integrity. CH Robinson and JB Hunt, I've never hauled for.
Yep.
So
So
why am
how
I
did
on
that
their
happen?
blacklist?
Other than they're all
You
in
can. I don't know
cahoots
if you guys have
through the
done it. And I
TIA.
haven't. I haven't done it lately. You can go pull up. Obviously any publicly traded company's guidance for the next quarter. You can see their their financials are public. And again, I haven't done it lately. Uh, but a company like CH Robinson, it's you can see what they made, and you can see what they're projecting to
Yeah,
make.
we can. We know.
I mean, they're not making 40 and 50%. Again, I'm sure there's some load they did. I'm sure there's some extreme where they lost 40 or 50%. I lost a lot of money when in January when it froze over because I'd bid freight, not consider, and that's my fault. My team's fault. But you take a company that's publicly traded, you'll see really quick that they're not making 40 and 50 and 60% margins. They're just not.
When they're in the billions for a gross revenue for a year,
And
and
you
you take
divide it,
out
hold on, and you divide every employee in their company, and you find out how much every employee would have to make to have that margin. Well, you're going to find out they're making more than
math
what we make
doesn't
as a truck
lie.
driver. Math doesn't lie, man. It
No, it
just
doesn't.
doesn't.
And you'll see the average in the industry is from 10 to 18%. Some say 10 to 15. I've heard 12 to 18. It's not 40 and
That is
60.
not the.
And I've
If it's
heard all
40 or
that too.
60, then I'm doing it wrong because I'm not making
Then
40 or
then you
60.
then
Or in
you're
your
doing it
eyes, I'm
wrong.
doing it right.
So then you're doing it wrong because the
Guys,
the
I'm here to tell you something. I'm not making 40 to 60%.
okay,
I'm not
then
anywhere
you're
making
you're not
anywhere
the
near
problem.
that.
Now, here's the thing. Are you going out and getting the loads for a rate that the driver can stay in business? A fair rate? Are you taking a margin that is, your commission,
Well,
not part of the load.
what do you define? I mean, again, this is subjective. I'll go ahead and tell you. I'll be
Okay,
transparent. Wait. Let me tell you. I'm getting ready to tell you my margin. You should give me 12 seconds for this. My margin averages between 10 and 17%. Normally, it's around 12 to 15. I've had extremes when it bumped
Okay,
up. I've had extremes when it bumped down. I've had it before be 8.
well, you're going to absolutely hate us because our brokerage is at 2%, and then our brokers are at 6
I
to
cannot
8,
operate at
depending.
2% because of the
You're
cost
right,
of
you
capital.
can't, and that's why I said
How
brokers
can
are going
you,
to be
with the
pissed
cost of
off at what
capital,
I'm doing.
prime 7.25?
Do what?
How can you, when prime is 7.25, operate at 2%?
are you an independent? Are you subcontracted, or do you own the authority?
No, I'm subcontracted.
See, then they're taking a
Okay,
cut too. There's more than one cut in that.
But I'm still asking you, if prime is 7.25, how do you operate healthy?
we're talking about under the authority that actually holds the
I
surety
understand that,
bond.
but I'm still going
Yep.
back to the cost of capital. The capital cost, anyone can find yield in the market right now. I'm just going to say minimum of 4.5 or 5 anywhere. You can go to T-bills and get that. So if T-bills are paying that, why would anyone operate at 2% and take all the risk of a customer not paying, of contingent claims?
Or customer not paying. Here's what.
No,
You're
but you're
not
still not
taking the
answering my question.
liability of it.
You still,
The
we can get on
authority
claims in
is.
a second. I'm wanting to know how you operate at 2% when when prime is 7.25.
But the overall cost that goes to the brokerage and the broker is actually 10%,
Oh,
but
okay,
it's capped out
okay.
at
Well, I
10%.
just was telling you
The
my gross margin,
brokerage,
and you did not define your gross margin. Okay, now we're
yes,
on
I
the same
did.
page.
I sure in the
You
hell
said we
did.
operate
I
at
sure in the
2%.
hell did.
2%
Okay,
goes to
uh,
the brokerage.
hold on. I said 2% goes to the brokerage and 6% goes to the broker, with 2% possibly to the broker if they found the load. If not, then that goes to a finder's fee, which if you're good at,
So that's
addition,
8%.
two, no, 2 and 8, 2 and 6 and 8 is 10.
All right, 2 and 6 and 8 is not 10. 2 and 6 is
Okay,
8.
it isn't. 2,
2 and 6
6,
and 10 is 18.
2, 6, and 2 is 10.
Oh, I thought you said 2, 6, and 10. I'm sorry.
No, 2, 6, and 2 is
Okay, so
10.
you're operating on a gross margin of 10%, and prime is 7.25. Am I understanding that right? A gross margin, not the split between everyone. A gross margin of 10%.
What do you mean by
Yes, it does
prime?
I'm
the
talking
I
about
don't
I'm
care what
talking
the
the
bank is
cost of
getting.
capital. You know,
I
10%
don't give
comes
a damn what
out
the
of
bank's making.
10% comes out of the load tender.
there's no VC, there's no PE, there's no one in the world that has anything to do with capital, including your bank, the money you've got, or anyone. If you're, and I'm not saying you are now, I'm just wanting you to understand my point when I misunderstood you. When you told me you were operating at 2%, I didn't hear the 6% part. I stand corrected. I'm fine saying that. It's recorded. You can play that over and over again. But prime, if you're having to ask me what prime is, we've got a huge problem.
No, I know what prime is. That's
Okay.
what RMIS is going to get nominated for.
No,
Is
no prime. No
they
prime is Federal
yeah.
Reserve monetary policy. The cost of
I
capital.
know. I know.
Okay. Okay.
It's when the interest rate goes up. I know what prime is. You don't need to tell me, but I
Okay.
know what prime is. Okay, it's on a HELOC. It's on all kinds of things.
No,
But see,
HELOCs are based on debt security and credit default swaps in the market, and how it's graded and how it's bundled. But anyway, you get the overall point. Yes.
mhm,
So
yeah, the prime
you
is the
cannot
interest rate.
operate efficiently under prime, or you would be better off just putting the money in the markets and going to the house.
No, I mean you don't understand how the system works.
No.
We're training the drivers to go get the loads. We're giving them the capacity through the brokerage as a carrier agent, and they get 2% for the finder's fee. Only 2% goes back to the brokerage, and if they want to get the other 6%, they can go and find the truck for it too. If they've got a buddy, they got 15 buddies that want to go haul loads. they can go into a business and say, hey, we got 15
Sure.
trucks.
So who carries that? Who carries that capital cost?
What do you mean? Like
Who carries the capital
the
cost? How do you service your debt? Because most customers pay
The
in 30.
authority.
okay, so hold on. I get where you're going with this. So if they're factoring their money, right? If they're factoring their money,
They're
then
factoring. You guys aren't factoring, are you?
we're factoring, but they're
Holy
paying the
shit!
factoring cost.
So your factoring costs are 2.5, 3, maybe 1.8 for 15 days, something like that, right? Can we agree on that?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
So if you annualize that, what do you
If
come
the
up with?
Huh?
so
Annualize that for me.
What do you mean
so if
annualize?
Annualize.
the
Come on,
carrier
guys. We've got to be. We're on this. I've got a
can
fourth grade education. Come on, you know what annualize is. Don't play dumb. Annualize that for me. Annualize yeah,
Analyze?
annualize. Multiply times 12. There you go. Take your average cost of factoring of 2 to 3%. Okay. Now annualize that for me.
if the carrier wants to factor the load, it comes
They
out
can.
of their side.
If they want to wait for it, then they get the full amount.
All right.
Yep.
So who
They
carries
So
that
get
we're
90%
capital?
taking
of the load.
So
we're
the
taking
carrier's
the
taking that
price that.
risk.
What do you mean the carrier's taking that
If
risk?
they wait for it and the customer doesn't,
We are not signing any
I know.
contracts that will
I'm just asking
go
I'm asking trying to
over
understand
30
your
days
program. Hell, I might want to
of
jump on your
pay.
program. I'm just trying to understand it. So you have a carrier. I think I understood this right. You had a carrier.
Mm-hmm.
He can decide if he wants to factor or he can wait. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What if that?
Because we have a special factoring company that literally will give us 100% back
Sure.
if we don't ask to factor that load. And we
Okay,
can
that's
factor
fine.
one load and not another.
At what rate?
What's the rates?
If it's not being factored, it does not.
Yeah, they're not
We
having an
do not
assignment
get
of all.
charged.
Right, I understand that they're not having an assignment of all receivables. That makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But I'm still going back to. I'm trying
Standard
to
factoring is 3%. Quick pay.
annualize that.
What do you mean
That's
annualize that?
36. That's
So the carrier
36.
would take out an extra 3% out of their 90% if
Yep.
they
So
want
they
Right. So
to
would
let's think
still.
factor.
about that. You're
So they would
chasing cash
still
flow,
So
not
get
they
on
would get
paperwork
Yeah.
87%.
87%.
If you're talking about 90% or getting 100% if you don't factor it, you're talking about cash flow and gross sales and not net profit or gross profit. So let's break that down for a second. Work with me here for just a second. I'm not saying the
Mm-hmm.
program is faulty. I'm trying to understand it. It might be the best thing that's ever happened. I'm sure not knocking it. I'm just trying to understand it. And this might be a hole in it. I'm asking. I'm humbly asking. If you take factoring and you annualize factoring, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
see between a 24 and 36% return. And they're going to charge you more than 3% if the customer doesn't pay in 30 days, if they pay in 60 days. So your cost of capital is just as important, if not more important than what a broker charges. And here's the reason why. If that's recourse, they're going to charge you less. If it's non-recourse, I'm sorry, yes, if it's non-recourse, they're going to charge, vice versa. If it's non-recourse, they're going to charge you more, less. If it's recourse, they're going to charge you less. So what happens if that customer doesn't pay?
I put them on freight slaughter,
Okay,
and
but they still
no
didn't pay
other
the
broker
carrier.
will
Say
ever
it's a
use it.
customer that owes you. I had one hit me for 400 grand.
So we sue them.
Yeah,
We
but you
sue
don't
them.
get anything. They go to bankruptcy. I've done that a million times. That's just
Okay,
life.
they go into bankruptcy, then they're out of business.
Right. You lost your
So
400
what?
grand, or I did.
And then I get it back at the end of the year.
From where? The IRS, you get 30%. No one wants a tax
No, you
write-off.
don't.
That's a
They take
lie.
30%.
Well, how do you get it back
No,
at the end of the
you
year?
don't get 30% of your losses. Let's get real.
All right. Well, then you tell
You
me
do
how do you
not
get it
get
back? How do you
30%
get
of
it
your
back at the end of the
losses.
year? How do you get it back at the end
You
of the year?
claim it as a loss. Otherwise, Walmart and everybody else wouldn't be throwing all their food away. They'd be trying
I
to sell
understand,
it.
but you're still not getting my point. Or maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not articulating this well. My question is, if a customer hits you, let's use easy math because I'm dumb, $100,000.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're dumb because you've already gone 100,000 before you ever knew if he was going to pay a bill or
No, you
not.
pull a Dun and Bad Street. You look at average days to pay, and you said that you've made that comment. You made that analogy, not me. You said because I'd pulled a
We
hundred
only
grand.
have 30 days. We're only
Uh,
giving them 30 days to pay, and it's based on a pay scale. So
I understand.
every every
All right, so you
every
don't. So
7
you're
days
going to be
above,
bankrupt proof.
they're going to
You're
pay
bankrupt
more.
proof. Your guys are never going to go bad. So that's good. I understand that now. So all the business
Well,
you're
they
going
can
to
go
do,
bankrupt. They can go bankrupt, and then we claim it on the taxes.
that's still a
Doesn't really
loss.
matter. It's a loss that you get back.
Oh my gosh, I'm blown away at this conversation. You mean to tell me that if someone hits you for $100,000, you think you get it all back? You think like you just get it all back by the IRS?
You don't. You can write it off.
But you're
It's a
not getting it all
loss.
back. That's a mute point. That's a false statement. You don't get it all
You're not
back.
getting 30%
That
back.
100,000 doesn't go towards your gross at the end of the year for taxes.
It doesn't. You're right, but you still had operating costs. Like for example, I'll just use. Let's go back to the terrible broker you're talking about. You know, the guy that whatever. Uh, th-
Yeah,
That's
his
where
name's
the
John
other loads,
Rogers.
all right. So
the other
listen.
contracts come in.
All right. So here's where contracts come in. If I tell a carrier I'm going to pay them, if the customer pays me or doesn't pay me, I still have to pay the carrier. I still have a rate confirmation with the carrier. I still have to pay the carrier, right?
Yeah, if they go out of business.
Yeah, yeah, but people go out of business.
If they go out of business.
So I don't have
But
to
the
pay them.
likelihood is that doesn't actually happen very often.
Holy,
And then you don't have to claim that. Hold on. You do not have to claim that as income. Plus, it's a loss already. So you are over and above. So you didn't claim the income that was coming in. Plus, you claimed it as a loss. So, I mean, maybe you're doing your taxes wrong, but I'm getting all my money back.
so well then I would be awesome if you and I could work out a deal where you just get the IRS to pay me and you pull a bunch of freight for me and I not pay you. I'd get rich and you get it all back anyway. You wouldn't be bothered. Can we work something out?
No, it doesn't work that way. That's called fraud.
But that's what it sounds like to me. You think that if
They,
someone,
they're yeah, they guarantee they're looking for
I,
that.
so
I guarantee they're looking for that. I guarantee when you start claiming losses like that, they want to see that
I was
loss.
being sarcastic. I'm just telling you when you claim a loss,
They look into
you
it real
don't
hard. I
say that
guarantee it.
again.
I say they'll look into it real hard.
I'm sure
That's
they
what'll
will, and
happen.
I'm being
Yeah,
sarcastic. No one makes money not paying people. It affects your credit
exactly.
rating, and everything, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyone with a half a brain knows that. But I've still got two problems with this.
Mm-hmm.
My first is the cost of capital.
Okay.
My second is who's responsible for bad debt. And for us to sit here and have a conversation with the with and
Well,
say
here's another question
wait,
for
let
you.
me finish asking, please, and then I promise
Okay,
I'll
go ahead.
shut up. You can't say there's never going to be bad debt. It does happen. I don't care how well you monitor credit. Believe me, we do I'll do 100 million this year. We monitor credit. I look at
Mm-hmm.
average days to pay. Last time it was all that. We look at every bit of that daily in real time. If someone's at
Then
31
I
days and
promise.
they're fine,
Then I promise you'll want
I
to look
can't
into
finish.
my next thing.
I just I,
Go
I'll
ahead.
just I'll just
The
shut up
credit rate.
because I can't. I'm not
I
allowed to finish.
No, you're saying that you look at credit ratings. Then you're going to want to look at the next thing that I'm going to announce.
So we look at credit ratings. We look at average days to pay. We look at obviously a pay history. You know, you build a relationship with the customer. You had them for a while. But if something happens and that customer goes out of business, I still have to pay the carrier. So my question to you guys is when that does happen, because for you to think it won't happen is just you're lying to yourself. Who is
Okay.
responsible for that?
But I promise you they'll be out of business
Well, that's fine.
because
Okay,
you're
I just said that. They go out of business. Okay, fine. They're insolvent. Forget bankruptcy. They're
okay.
insolvent.
So you get your return back from your losses, correct? You get your return back from your losses. It's only a credit, but it's a credit towards your taxes.
Yes,
So you're
about
gonna
depending
get
on your tax rate is 15 to 35% state, all that. You can go through details if you want, but it ain't 100. You don't get 100% back. I promise. I know from experience from multiple years. But you're still not answering my question. Does the carrier get that, or do you get it, or who pays for that?
who pays for what?
A
I
carrier
guess I
goes out
missed
and
that.
gets 10 loads from his buddy,
Mm-hmm.
and that you pass the 6 and 2 and 2 or whatever the 10% down and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, they decide not to factor it. You said they could decide not to factor, and then
Hmm.
the shipper doesn't pay them. I'm asking you, in layman terms, who eats that?
Well, obviously, we're going to eat it, but you do know in bankruptcy, they still have to pay back or liquidate their assets and pay their
Why?
debtors back,
Why do
right? You
people
know
file
that.
bankruptcy? Because they're
Huh?
insolvent. They have no money. So
Oh,
when someone
bullshit.
files
Oh,
bankruptcy, you're going to
oh,
get pennies on the dollar if you
no,
get anything.
that's
That's a
bullshit. Because
fact. That's not
you look
Bradley's
at Surge
opinion.
Logistics, they're right back in business and they have to pay
Yeah, they
back their
opened up a new
creditors.
LLC and they formed a corporation somewhere else. Forget all that. You're
And
missing
see
the point.
that's not going to happen with the stuff that's happening
Okay, that's
next.
fine.
So
Forget
people,
them. I'm not talking about Surge, whoever. I'm talking about Joe Blow Frozen Foods that makes chicken nuggets for McDonald's, and the
hmm
building gets hit by a meteorite or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Whatever disaster you want there to happen, their funding gets cut off. The CEO gets, fraud. Just make up any scenario you want, anything, and
and
they're
you're not going to get
insolvent.
money out of their bankruptcy.
You're not going to get their money out of their man. I can't. Well, let's change the subject because we're not on the same page. You're
No,
telling
we're
me
not.
people get their money out of bankruptcy. That's
Well, I'm
unbelievable
telling
that
you,
you think that.
if they don't go and claim bankruptcy, if they're just not paying, then you'll want to know about freight slaughter because I'm forming the industry standard that you literally, with proof, can go and put somebody up for whatever it is that they did wrong to you, and it never goes away. It can be resolved, but it will never go away. That means if Joe Blow doesn't pay you and you put it on there, what other brokerage is going to go and get their loads if they pull that up and say, hey, this guy didn't pay, right? So what other brokerage is actually going to call that
You mean
fool
carrier
to
because
move
there's not
his
going to be any more
loads?
brokers, right? So, but if it's the shipper that does that, so if a shipper does that and doesn't pay, because we have that
How is
happen,
he going to get the rest of his loads moved?
he's went out of
Because
business.
even a carrier can look at that and say,
Yeah,
hey,
he's gone out of.
this
Listen,
guy
he's
doesn't.
gone out of business. Your point is mute. He doesn't have any more shipments to move.
Okay, but he's still got assets, and they're going to be sold.
He's
You're going to get some of
insolvent.
your money back through
You're not.
the
Oh my
bankruptcy.
gosh, he's insolvent. His
What do you
balance
mean
sheet does not
insolvent?
line up.
It doesn't matter. He still has
Yeah,
assets.
listen.
He
If you
still
have,
has
all right,
to.
I'm going to give you a scenario. If you have assets and they're pledged,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your assets are pledged. You file bankruptcy because you're insolvent. You have cash flow issues. You have no liquidity. You're over leveraged on your assets. So that goes to bankruptcy. And then when you go to bankruptcy, you have collateralized debt and you have non collateralized debt.
And you get a credit from the government because
You're
they
going
allow
back to
that.
that, man. No
You
one wants
still
a
get a
credit from the
credit.
government. You're not working for a credit from the government. You're working for money and you're not getting it.
Now I am getting it.
From where? You think the IRS is paying people's bad debt?
I didn't talk about the IRS, did I?
Where's the credit coming from?
Okay? You're going to tell me when
No,
somebody
where's
files
the credit
bankruptcy,
coming
you
from? You're
don't
not
get no
answering my
credit from
question. You
it.
just said you're going to get a
No,
credit
hold
at
on.
the end of the year.
You said that you don't get nothing from a bankruptcy if somebody claims bankruptcy. I'm
You
here
get
to tell you
very
you're full of
little.
shit.
Very, 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 very little. Look up the stats on it. You're in front of a computer. I'm on a phone. I'm guessing you're in front of a computer.
No,
Google
I'm
how much
not.
someone
No,
gets off of Chapter 7.
no. Chapter 7 is not total liquidation.
Or Chapter 11. Do that. See how the judge rules on returns. But you can
Anyway,
do. Most people that file bankruptcy file 7, and most of them don't re structure.
What's up, MAGA?
Yeah, yeah. I have a quick question from my brokerage. How would you pay contingent insurance, the fees for your TMS, the fees for highway or verification of carriers? I mean, my insurance for my brokerage alone was $35,000 just for my contingent.
You can't.
uh,
So
you know who that is, right, Chris?
I'm just wondering some of these questions. And I've been our
You,
brokerage for
you
17
you know who
years.
that is, right?
So yeah, Sage.
Yeah. Well, see
I'm
you,
just asking.
Sage.
I'm being
Bye.
respectful. I'm just being respectful and asking you.
You're
How
going
do
to
you
love Freight Slaughter too.
how do you pay that?
Well, he's trying to make points that he's not going to make because he's been harassing us for a long time, and he's pissed off that I'm actually doing what I'm doing, and that's why he's gotten narc to come at me. That's why I got phone calls at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's why the last space was dropped because narc called Chris. That's why it's being hosted on my stuff, which is actually on the internet, so they can't do it. And it's just,
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
not. I'm
he's
just for
he's
the
done.
record. I'm not. I'm intrigued. I'm just curious how the business model works. So I'm asking these questions out of literally just trying to understand. Like I'm intrigued. How do you pay contingent? How do you pay for DAT? How do you pay for internet truck stop? How do you pay workers' comp? Well, you don't have workers' comp, I guess, because you're going to be 1099. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's all
How do you
subcontracted.
No, no,
figure
no, no,
your
no. Hold on. You're talking about all these costs that are actually for an employee.
no contingent's not for an employee. The other was yes, you're right. That's why I said no. I'm wrong. You're paying 1099. But contingent has nothing to do with an employee.
What the hell do you mean contingent?
Contingent cargo. I'm sorry, I didn't explain it right.
Okay, contingent cargo. So you're talking a couple of $1,000. Well, I mean, 2% should cover a couple of $1,000 a year. Really, it should. I mean, I'm
You're
just
getting it
saying.
for a couple thousand a year.
Well, I mean, you're getting it for 30,000 with the truck, but
He
if you're
said
getting
he was. I'm
2% of all
not.
the
For
loads
for
coming in,
general freight for 100,000, yes, it's only $2,000 a year.
I'd love to see those terms.
well, that's what we got our insurance for.
Yep.
We've got all that. We're a brokerage too. See, that's what
So
you don't
you no,
understand.
you've told me that. I do understand. You mentioned that before, so I do actually understand. I'm just trying to understand your process. I'm not challenging it. I'm trying to understand it. And like I told you before, you have to break it down for me. I'm a little slow, but I do know what prime is. I do know what recourse is. I do know how bankruptcy works, and I do know the cost of capital. And I do know people search for yield everywhere they can that have any capital. And I'm just trying to understand how your process works with all those barriers in front of you. And you might have an answer that's great. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't get it.
I mean, 2% of the load, it should pay all of those costs. I mean,
You move a
honestly,
load
it
for
should.
30,000, you move a load for 3,000 bucks.
Okay.
You get 60 bucks. That's 2%.
Okay. But you're not moving one load. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
If you moved one load a
Okay, let's
day,
say you do a
okay,
million
let's
bucks.
go
Let's
let's
forget
go
a
on your
million
figures.
bucks.
Hold on, let's go on your figures. How many
No, I want to
loads
go
do
on
you
yours
move a
because I'm
month?
trying to.
How
I'm
many
actually
loads do you
wanting to
move a
go on
month?
your figures because I
No, no,
want to
no, no. Let's
understand
go
your
on yours.
program.
Let's go on.
No,
I
I
don't
want to
have
go
any
on.
loads. I don't have any loads. So stop. Let's go on your figures, okay?
You don't
How
have
many
any
loads
loads?
did you say you move? No,
Wait
I'm
just
just
a second. You said
no.
we're gonna go. All right, we're gonna go on your numbers.
Okay,
You
zero. I
said
don't know shit.
$3,000 is not a lot of money. You said $3,000 is not a lot of money. You're right. I agree with you. We're on the same page. Let's say a million bucks. 2% of that's $20,000. So you do $1 million in gross sales in a month. That's 12 million. If you annualize that, that's 12 million a year. That's $240,000 a year at
Oh,
2%.
okay. I understand that's not the only thing that's implemented in what we're doing. That's just how we're like, I'm making my own RMIS, right? I'm
Okay.
making my own stuff so I don't have to pay for any of that stuff. I'm making my own uh, load board. I'm making everything because, again, as I told you, you're talking to a computer programmer that is pissed.
I
So,
understand that. That's
and
perfectly
that's
fine.
why
So you're
Freight
gonna,
Slaughter
so
is
you're not
coming
gonna
out.
use RMIS. You're not. I know you mentioned
No,
earlier you didn't. You're not gonna use highway. You're not gonna use any of
no,
that.
no.
You're making your own deal, and it's gonna track the cell phone ELD. How's that gonna work?
What do you mean?
Well, you said you're making your. So when you vet your carriers, are you going to utilize
Do,
tracking, or are
do
you just going
you
to vet them?
honestly think that RMIS is tracking?
No. I said that wrong. I said that wrong. I misspoke. I'm asking you, how are you going to track your carriers?
How am I going to track them?
Uh huh.
What
Well,
the
we're
heck?
going we're going back to a whole time era that why do we need to track them? Back in the day, you weren't able to track them.
I know, but
right?
customers demand it now. You know what they tell me on the
Who gives a
phone? Well, not
shit? We
every
don't
one
want
of
your
them.
load. We don't want your load.
You know what they tell me on the phone?
We don't want
If
your load.
Amazon, well, if Amazon can tell me where my 4 ounce package is, I would hope you could tell me where my 44,000 or 40,000 pound package is.
Amazon's in for a rude awakening because part of that rule also states that you cannot uh, take a cut as a brokerage if you own the freight. Walmart is in for a rude awakening.
Well, they still
Cargill
can
is
tell me
in
where
for
their
a rude
package is.
awakening.
It's 4 ounces, you know. So anyway, back to all right. So you're writing your own program where you don't have to utilize those. That makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. I totally understand that. To vet carriers, are you going to like
Okay.
utilize carrier 411 information or look at any of that other
Hell no.
outsource? Okay, so
Hell
you're not.
no.
So how are you going to vet your carriers?
I'm running Carrier 411 out of business.
Okay, so man, we got a lot of people. Brokers are going out of business. Amazon's going out of business. Walmart's going to be
Well,
struggling.
let me
RMIS.
explain
I
it.
mean,
Let me explain it to you. Okay.
please.
Every Carrier 411 is a freight slaughter until the broker proves otherwise, because Carrier 411 doesn't require any proof. If there is a freight slaughter, a Carrier 411 on any carrier, because they don't accept carriers' phone calls, they don't accept anything from carriers. Okay. Freight slaughter is designed that if you put a Carrier 411 on a carrier, it's going to go up as a freight slaughter. Now, if you can't prove that that was a legitimate freight slaughter, guess what? Every carrier out there will know exactly what you're doing. I'm tired of Carrier 411 being used as a
along with
punishment to a
shippers and
broker.
dispatchers as well,
All right,
and
so
receivers.
all right, I know you're upset because I mentioned carrier form one. I get that. That's fine. So I still
No,
want to go
I'm
back
going
to
after them head on.
no. That's okay. I can hear the passion in your voice. Appreciate it. So my next question is back to my original. Back up with me for a minute. How are you going to vet your carriers? Again, I'm just asking. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just wondering. How are you going to vet your carriers?
How am I going to vet my carriers? Well, if they're on freight slaughter, I ain't going to use them. Okay. And if they can't, again, you can circumvent the whole idea of double carriers by a simple picture and a geolocation, right? At the time of pickup, at the time of delivery. If that doesn't match and they are not geolocated, you're not paying them until you figure out who the actual carrier is. And whoever's double brokered the load will never use you again,
Right.
right?
I get that. That makes sense. That
That's
makes sense.
easy to
But
circumvent.
but you still want to have a carrier history, right? Like you want
I
to
can
collect
get
that
that.
data.
Yeah, I can
So
get
your
that
system
from,
does that too, or you're writing a
yeah.
system to do that. I want to make sure. I'm just trying to figure this
Well,
out.
I mean, you can get that information from uh,
Safer.
Safer,
So you are going
which,
to use Safer. You're going to use
oh, yeah.
obviously Safer, Federal Motor Carrier
Well,
Safety
yeah.
Administration. You're going to
Yeah,
do all
Of
but
that.
course.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
at the same time, if they don't have any inspections, we can't judge them off of that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If they have an annual inspection they can send me, that's good enough for me. That's what the
Yep,
regulations require, is an annual inspection. See, what you
yep.
guys don't understand is brokers using that inspection deal, that is a roadside inspection. We can't even request those.
All right. So I'm trying
Those
to
are
have a.
random.
You know you're using a broad brush. Brokers, the devil or whatever. I'm just trying to understand your program. So, the brokers, the devil, Amazon's going out of business, all that stuff, that's fine if you want to say it over and over again. I'm still trying to understand the cost of capital. I'm still trying to understand recourse and not non-recourse, how you operate at a growth. I think I've got this right of 10%. Someone gets 2%, someone gets 6, and there's another two. When if you
Yeah, that's finder's
annualize
fee.
factoring, you're looking at probably not probably, you are looking at between a 24 and 36% cost.
Ah, but hold on. You only take 10 to 17%. But now you're telling me there's a 24%.
Yeah, if you annualize a factorer's charges, yes.
We already told you the carrier, if the carrier wants to factor a load, they can
Then
factor it,
that's on
Right, they
but
don't
them.
it's
have to
coming
factor them
out
all.
of
I
theirs.
understand that. Yes, you did tell me that, and
That's
I
on
do
them.
understand that. But there's someone still has to carry that past 30 days, and if there's bad debt, is it recourse or non-recourse to the carrier? Because we need to get
If I
over the.
remember right,
First
it's
of all,
recourse.
before you answer that,
That's
we need to
recourse.
all understand there is such thing as bad debt, and you don't get it back. Okay.
And that's all fine, but there sure in the hell ain't enough bad debt that brokers are making $2.8 million a year while carriers are going out of business. The main TQL is almost a billionaire, okay, in his own bank account. How? Off the blood of the truck driver.
So you
However
don't.
you
You really
look
don't
at
have
it.
the bad debt deal figured out. Then that's not bad. You just might want to look at it. It sounds to me like you're going off on a TQL rant that he's a billionaire and got an airplane or whatever. But there's still bad debt, and that's still a cost of business, and it needs to be figured into your equation. Right? I mean,
Okay,
would you
like I
agree with
said,
that? There's an
two
It's
algorithm. There's an
2%.
figured in.
algorithm there that you need to have a conversation about. Forget TQL and bad broker, the devil, and all that. I'm just saying,
And like I said, 10% is more than enough to actually take care of that.
based on what?
Based on what do you mean?
Based
What?
on what proof? I'm just asking you, based on your business model, based on what you've done over the last few years, based on
Let
TQL
me put
drives a
it this way.
jet. I mean, what? I'm asking you what it's based on. That's all.
Do you know how much it actually cost me for the last year to actually hold the authority
I don't know the
for a
exact
whole
cost. I
year?
know you've got highway use tax, you've got IFTA, Kentucky.
No, no,
You know,
no, 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 no.
I know
We're
you
talking
have.
You
about the
ain't got none
authority
of
for the
that.
brokerage. We're talking about brokerage. What
Yeah,
cost does it cost to have a
Depends on
brokerage?
how big it is. Depends on what your
authority.
contingent cargo is. It cost. It depends on how much your employees cost you. It depends on your
What's our
rent.
contingent cargo? What's our contingent cargo?
You said 2,000
2,000
bucks
a
or
year.
something for every.
2,000 a year. Okay, 2,000 a year. That's a big expense right there.
The surety bond, 6,000 a year.
I mean those are huge costs right there. You know what my
Eight
insurance
thousand
cost
dollars a
me?
year.
You know what my insurance cost me for my truck? And I'm on the low end of
I know
insurance
it was a
for a
lot when
truck.
I used to own 20 of them. It used to be, and it's way up. It used to be.
Well, it's way up from
Yeah.
then. Way up.
Are
You're almost
Are you going to do
1,800
your
a
own
month.
insurance company too?
What do
Well,
you
I
mean?
mean,
Am I going
you're
to do my
doing
own
all this.
insurance?
I'm
Eventually.
Yeah.
not being
Well, I mean,
smart.
we do have people that want to
Yeah,
work with
but
us.
I'm just
Yes.
saying,
Are we going to have a
are you
network
going
of
to get,
people?
are
Yes,
you
we
wanting to
are.
get large enough to self-insure, or how are you going to do that?
No, we if we have the carriers behind us, we can self-insure as an organization, and then they get
Yeah,
lower
that's what I'm
rates
asking. That's what
just
I was,
for
you
being a
act like
part of
every
us. Yeah.
question
Oh
I'm
yeah.
asking
We
you. I'm not
definitely.
asking you these questions as a challenge. Understand that, right? Like you're answering them
Yeah.
with a tone and tempo, like you're almost don't like me asking them. I'm sincerely asking.
I don't care if you ask them. I'm gonna answer them with passion. I
You
guarantee
don't
it.
have to
I'm
guarantee
not in
that. The
this for the
proof's in the
short
last
haul.
hour, so you don't have to guarantee that, Phil.
I can promise you one thing. Every question you ask me is going to be with passion.
But I'm still.
The brokers ran me out of business. The brokers put me upside down. The brokers made it so they took away what I wanted to do in life. Can I recourse from that and take care of my family? I sure can. But am I very vengeful? Oh yeah, I'm a
Okay.
Scorpio.
Okay.
Hold my beer. Fucking watch this.
Sounds like it. So if
No, I'm telling you, I'm a
okay.
Scorpio.
I
Hold
mean,
my beer. Watch this.
okay. Cool. Um. So if you
It's exactly what I told Kevin Rutherford
so
too.
if you you're not going to utilize that at all, how are you going to
Nope.
draw carriers to your board? Are you just going to word of mouth
Well, we might put loads on the board. Sure.
on that? So
Why
you are
not?
going to use that, or you're not?
Yeah. Why not?
At first,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
To
So it's sort of looked at as a
But see,
necessary evil.
after my board is set up, it's automated. The carriers that are approved on my board and my system, they just push a button for the load that they want.
Right. We do that. Of
Now I've
course.
eliminated
Yeah,
the
we do
broker.
that.
Now I've eliminated the broker.
So
So do you see how the
Well,
system's going
not
to
I'm
work?
trying to see
necessarily.
how the system works. Yeah, I'm trying to understand it. It's intriguing. I'll be honest. I'm intrigued. So how are you going to get your?
Well, originally, let me give you a rundown, okay? Originally, I just wanted to get a bunch of carriers together, go get some loads, and just, divvy up loads between all the carriers that were involved, and just get into the doors of some of these companies so we could get loads and we could survive, right? But I found out the federal government made it so that you have to be a
Right.
broker to give a load. So what I'm fighting for, okay, in the end, and I'll keep on saying this because we know they're listening. We know because everything we've been talking about, they're now doing. In fact, they stopped their whole project that they were doing to start what we're talking about. But anyway, we won't go there.
Well, hey, if
Um,
they are, wait. Will
in
you?
the
Hey,
end,
will you humor me and go there for 20 seconds? So how are they
go
fighting
ahead.
the cost of capital then if they're going there? Because we can't discredit that. It drives America. I mean, monetary policy is talked
Okay,
about daily. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
It
I'm not
determines
telling you.
inflationary concerns, consumer sentiment. We can go on and on and on. So you can't discredit it.
That's okay.
okay, can't discredit it.
I know, but you didn't. How are they combating that then if they're copying what you're
Yeah.
doing? Do they know something about it you don't know?
That's not even what I'm talking about. That's not even what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is I have been saying for a while that if you make the MC, okay, one MC per lifetime tied to your Social Security, you're going to get rid of a lot of fraud in the industry instantaneously. Why? Because the overseas companies no longer can do anything in the United States, right? Now you've done that. Now, if you're told that you get one screw up or you're out of business, right? You're going to be fucking around so much, or are you going to start playing by the rules?
Well, as far as being overseas, you've probably got the right administration in to to play that game. That you, if you're going to do it, now be the time. If someone's overseas, which they are, you're exactly right. Again, there's the third thing we can agree on 100%, and they're double
Well, they
brokering and
overseas.
fraudulent and all that. They
Mm-hmm.
need to be.
Yep.
We look. We can yell at each other all night, but I'll stand right beside you and say that.
Well, see, we agree on one
No,
term, but
three.
here's the thing,
Three. I've
right?
been counting. Three.
Three. Okay, counting three. Anyway, again, like I said, it sounds more like you understand how a brokerage should work, right? You go out and you bid according to what your customers, which isn't just the shipper or the receiver, it's also the carrier, right? And then you have a gross margin that you ask for and say, hey, I want to make this much on top of that so I can do the load for this amount. That's not what's happening nowadays. So really, I'm not after somebody like you. I'm after somebody that goes out and says, "I'll do the load for $3,000," and then says, "Hey, I'll give you the load for $500, and I'm gonna put 25 in my pocket because I want to." That's
All right,
illegal.
so I would be willing to bet, and I don't have the evidence, and you probably don't either to back it up. So this is just opinion
Here, let me
based.
grab
So
his water
you can
bottle.
Mm-hmm.
rebuttal it,
Besides,
and I won't have a response.
blow up.
I would be willing to
Mm-hmm.
bet they're bad actors, no doubt. So let me make that deposit and agree with you. Sure, there's bad brokers, there's bad truck drivers, there's bad police officers, and I'm sure that your scenario. I think you mentioned the 12,000 and he kept nine or something, or 12,500 and he kept nine. There's
Yep.
stories like that every day, every day.
Yep.
I would be willing to bet you though, and there'd be no way to prove it that most turn out that way because you can't survive being that way. It's not a long term play. It's a short term play, and you're not going to stay in the industry. I will say
Really?
this.
TQL did a
I've
pretty
sat
good
here and
job at
told you guys I'm dumb,
47%.
I'm dumb, I'm dumb, and all that. I've said that multiple times. Let me tell you one thing I do that's right. I take care of my
We
employees.
know you're not dumb.
I take care of my customers, and I take care of the carriers that work for me. Because I'm not. I'll tell you this right now. There is, and I'm preaching to the choir. You're not going to be able to argue with me on this. I can't live without a
No.
truck driver. I can't live without a railroad, and I can't live without a customer. And I understand that every day. When you walk through my doors, on my door, going onto my floor, it says in my office, we're here to serve our customers, our carriers, and each other. It says it on my
Are you
door,
leaving again?
and I
Can I
mean
put it
that.
on there?
And you're not the problem. then
Well,
you're
I
not the
make more than
problem, and you'll
10%
probably survive
sometimes. I just
because
told y'all that earlier too, and you're making 10. So it sounds to me like your disagreement and mine are based on between 2 and
no,
5%.
okay. I'm not telling you what you can make. This is not communism, right? I'm telling you what I'm doing, and people are going to have a really hard time competing with what I'm doing. That's just the baseline. They're not going to be able to compete because, like you said, you don't have access to all those things. You don't have the RMIS. You got to pay for that. You
Yeah,
got to
but
pay
I've
for
got
this. You got to pay
coders,
for that.
dude. I've
You
got
got to pay for
coders. Do
the.
you not think I've got a business
Well,
analytics guy
get
and
busy.
coder in my office? We use bots. We write the code. We can do that
Well, get
too.
busy.
That's not a big deal.
Get busy then.
You can go get them out of
Get
college
busy then.
anywhere. They're 90 grand a year.
Yeah, well, they ain't worth a shit most of the time because they don't know what they're doing,
Well, I
really.
mean, listen,
If
I'm
you're
not the
taught in
only
college,
broker
you're
in the
not
world,
taught
and you're
enough.
not the only coder in the world. Let's not lie to each other.
No, I'm not saying I am. I'm saying that I'm probably one of the only coders that, was driving truck, got pissed off, and said I'm going to do something about it.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of them. I mean, I've met a couple of them. I've got one that's working with me that's going to be helping me do blockchain and get it so that it can never be erased, no matter who
Hey,
tries
well,
to
let me
erase
ask
it.
you this as a coder. Now I'm getting off subject, but give me another 30 seconds. Blockchain and AI, and do you think I've read somewhere a few days ago that there are concerns now that AI is going to be able to decode some of these cryptocurrencies that chains not as is
Nope,
that true or not?
nope, it
Okay.
won't happen. Nope, it won't
Again,
happen.
I'm not smart enough to know.
They won't be able to uncode it because there's no actual code for it. You would have to every single program comes in and actually makes their own code. So you would have to know what the programmer programmed the like with my code. My web page is way more secure than most people think. They think I'm a dumbass, but I showed a couple of things to Justice today, and he was like, "Okay," but yeah, we take pride in coding our people's information and making sure that they can't get it. And some of our stuff is actually the point that we can't even get it. So you literally would have to reset it or change it or do whatever because it's nowhere to be found. And the code is actually made from a program that made the code so that it could actually not ever be figured out. So yeah,
Way above my head.
it's in depth. Yeah, it's in
So
Yeah,
depth. So
it goes over my head too, Bradley. Don't feel bad.
yeah. So I keep going back to the bad debt part, probably driving you like beating a dead horse. One thing.
well, I mean, of course, you're going to have bad debt, but if you have enough that you can overcome that bad debt, you're going to get that money back one way or another,
So one thing you can
right?
do with
Whether or
bad
not
debt.
it's from the
Let me throw an
bankruptcy.
idea at you. Forget the bankruptcy and my points on that earlier. We still disagree on the IRS.
Mhm.
I mean, I would much rather get the money than get a
Yeah,
credit.
they're not
Yeah,
going to
you're
give it all
right.
back.
And bankruptcy, I've been hit on. I mean, I've been millions of dollars hit. It's just life, and you don't get it back. You'll get like $1,200 for something stupid, like you just want to bomb it. It's like you'd rather just almost not get it. It's insulting. But I will tell you something I've looked into that might be worth you guys looking into. You can insure debt, and you can
Hmm.
insure it for you have to check your premiums. But that's something to consider. No one talks about it until it hits them. No, it's like driving around with bad tires. When they blow up, then when one blows, the steer tire blows. Then
It
you
needs to be
realize,
fixed,
well,
right?
crap, I should have got. That's when it happens. So you need to think about that. And I'm telling you to do it, and I haven't done it, so I'm a hypocrite too. But I've thought about it. It's worth talking about. It's worth having a conversation about because I'm telling you, in this environment where you've got tariffs and you've got this company's going out, and I keep going back to the cost of capital. Interest rates weren't going to come down as quick as they thought, and suppliers are going out of business, and bankruptcies are up. It's a conversation worth having. Worth having.
Right. I agree. I do agree on that. But like I said, once it gets out there that a company can be because there's a lot of companies don't pay you. Like they don't have to go through bankruptcy. They don't have to go through all this stuff, right? That doesn't really apply in most circumstances. Let's be honest, okay? But if there's a place that can then go and people are checking that before they ever call you to move a load, or when you call them, they're checking. Let me give you a scenario, okay? As a broker, you call up and you say, hey, I'd like to move some of your loads. And you get past the gatekeeper and you're now to the shipping manager or whatever, right? And you say, hey, I'd like to move some of your loads, blah, blah, blah. You give them the spill and they say, hey, what's your MC? 30 seconds later, they tell you, hey, it looks like you haven't paid your last 2 trucks and you've got 2 freight guards on you, or two false freight guards, right? And he says, hey, do me a favor. I'm going to put you on our will not use list. You go ahead and put us on your do not call list and have a great day. How fast do you think you can shut somebody down if it starts getting used?
Oh, yeah, it's like a credit report or anything else. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we look at
But it's
customers'
legitimate.
credit before we start moving. You mentioned earlier you don't do all that. Well, actually, I mean, of course, we're going to
Yeah,
pull
we
because
actually do it with our factoring.
yeah, your
Our
factoring
factoring
company
will
does, and
pull.
that's another thing that factoring companies offer for that 2 or 3%. They're going to manage your back office, right? They're going to manage your credit. They're going to look at and they're looking at that daily. So
So
Mm-hmm.
let me put this out there. So with our factoring company, they like our idea so good. They gave us a special contract to where we could
Well,
factor
say
any load. I'm
yeah,
not going to
that's
say the
not normal.
company.
You know that. Yeah, you
Yes.
know that's not normal. You can't go and factor one load from a company and then the same company not factor it for the
well,
next person. We
they
have
have
that
assignment
ability.
clauses, and it's not as normal. You're right, but it can be done, and people do it. Just you're not the only ones that do it. I mean, we see it daily. But it is to your
Right,
point.
right,
To
and
your
that's what
point, it's
I'm
not the
pointing.
norm. It's
That's
not
what
the
I'm
norm.
pointing out, and that's what I'm pointing out. So they'll do like the only thing that they actually require is that we upload all all of the loads, right? That way they
But if
can
we don't
keep
put
track.
factor this,
Yep,
yeah, if we don't put factor this, we get 100% back. We
yep.
wait for it.
Right. So yeah, right, because you're not assigning all your receivables. Right. Exactly. So your factoring company is saying, hey, you can pick and choose the companies or the loads that you want to factor for.
No, no,
The
no.
loads you want to
The
factor against.
individual
Right.
loads.
Right.
Yes,
The
not companies, because
individual
most
loads.
Right.
It
most
doesn't
all will
Yeah, I
matter
say,
missed
"Oh
on the
both.
yeah,
I
you
said
contract.
don't
companies
have
and then I
to."
replaced it with loads. So yes. So
Okay.
yes, I get that. My point still goes back to it, you have to not look at this short sighted. Short sighted is, or the carrier. Again, you can pick. To your like you just mentioned, the carrier needs to think about if you
Mm-hmm.
get $100,000 in receivables and you factor half of them, that's 50%, right? That's 50,000 bucks. At 2%, that's
Mm-hmm.
$10,000. No, that's $1,000. I'm sorry, that's $1,000. You start if you
Mm-hmm.
annualize that $1,000, which is what you have to do to be fair to your business. You have to be fair to the money. You have to treat it separately. You're looking at a 12% cost on factoring
Yeah.
half of your receivables. Your 12% of your cost to operate in a year is factoring. If that customer, and guys, I'm going to be honest with you, most pay in 32, 33, 31 days or whatever, pays that
See, but
factoring.
we're trying to end
And
that too because that's a
we go back
1980
to
thing.
where we don't do any contracts that pay over 30 days. First off, and if the carrier wants to factor the load that they're hauling, they're taking that
They have to wait
cost
30
of
days.
factoring,
Right.
Yep.
or wait the amount of terms that the shipper actually put in, the customer
Yep.
put into the contract.
And see, here's the thing. We've actually made it basically a reward, right? If you pay immediately, you're going to get this rate. If you're going to pay in this time, you're going to get
Well,
this
that's
rate.
sort of
If you
giving a
pay in this
discount,
time, you're
isn't
going to
it?
get this rate. It is. It is discount, but it's a baseline, right? We're not going out and getting loads that are not going to pay our carriers what they need to make. Period. We're just not going to do it.
I understand
Like,
That's
that.
you
exactly
wanna
I
why
you
we
wanna
understand
don't
move
that.
have
that
any
load?
loads
Call
right now.
TQL.
Yeah, I understand that, and
Yeah.
that's noble. I get that. So, as competitive as the market is,
No, it's going to become a
I
lot
know. Just
less
say it becomes
competitive here real
less.
quick.
But I mean,
Yeah.
since we've had this conversation, you're disrupting Amazon, Walmart, JB Hunt. All the brokers are going. I
I'm
know
not
what,
doing it.
your
I'm
program
not
is, or
doing
the
it. When the
plan
law
is.
gets out
The
there,
plan with all these people
yeah.
are. We can't sit here and say there's not going to be competition in the marketplace, right? Would you agree
I'm
with
sure
that?
there
There's going to
is.
be some. You're just saying less.
I,
I want to make sure I've got.
I'm sure there is. But see, I'm using the carriers, right, to go get their own loads, to get their own friends, and giving them the ability to give a carrier a load. And I already told you that is the end all goal, is to make it legal for a carrier to give a carrier a load. Then brokers are going to become an option, not a necessity.
So how does that work with insurance, like contingent insurance? Because I know you said you had it, but if a carrier goes and
Well,
gives a
hold on.
carrier a
Does
load,
Because
not every carrier have insurance? Does not
yeah,
every
they have
carrier
insurance,
have
but they don't all have
insurance?
a contingent. Well, they all get their own contingent. I'm asking again. You act like I'm asking this. I'm asking literally.
Contingent insurance is just the insurance on the load. You don't think we have that on the
Right,
on
but
the
if
actual
I'm a
carrier side?
carrier, pretend like I'm a carrier and you're my buddy and I give you a load,
Uh-huh.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking, I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
it's not possible. Again, I'm just asking, I'm trying to understand it. And I give you a load and you're running down the road and your insurance has an exception on it, which happens all the time, or you give it your
Mm-hmm.
buddy that drives for you, picks it up in his other truck that's not on the scheduled insurance. I'm just making stuff up, of course. And for some
Mm-hmm.
reason, your insurance, your cargo insurance, does not cover the load. And I've given it to you as a carrier. There goes the train.
Well,
Sorry.
my insurance company is probably going to sue your insurance company because I'm going to claim it on my
You
insurance.
can't claim it on your insurance
Just
unless it's
saying.
contingent.
No, I'm saying when we change that, like I said, the end all goal is to make it so a carrier can give a
Right, but if
carrier a
they do
load,
that, there's got to be
bottom
some.
and it'll
line
be
is
no different.
the customers only started doing the contingent on the brokers because of that reason, where the cargo insurance was getting denied off of the carrier.
You're exactly
So
right. I mean, but that happened.
And,
That's
and
been
see,
going
that's
on.
another
That
thing.
happened. What? How many years? I mean, I don't even know. 20 years, forever ago. It's not like it just happened this year.
And that's another thing. How did XPO, is it XPO? How
RXO,
did XPO lose
RXO.
RXO? How did RXO lose an $11.5 million load and didn't have the insurance to actually
Because
cover it? How
because
did they
let me
ever
tell you what
get that
happened.
load?
See, guys, you can actually learn some stuff from dumb old me too. Actually, let me tell you what happened.
Sure.
And it obviously is not a good look for brokers. I mean, it was on freight waves and everything. All this, the TIA, all that crap,
Mm-hmm.
but still on there, still an
Yeah, I
article.
even did a post on it too.
So, well, then you might
Yep.
be able to correct me because now I'm second guessing myself. I think I'll get this right. XPO picks up a load of cell phones, right? Isn't that what it was? 4 or 5 pallets of cell phones or
Mm-hmm.
something worth
It
11.5,
was a whole
or there's,
truckload,
yeah,
11.5 million. Yep.
11.5 million. I mean, shit, guys, come on, that's some money. Uh,
Yeah,
So they weren't
right.
insured for
Their
it.
contingent cargo policy did not cover that much. What's supposed to
6 million.
happen, like what I do, is I get a declared value from my customer. And then I go out to the
Mm-hmm.
marketplace and I try, just $50,000 worth of make something up, widgets. So what I do is I go out to the marketplace and I try to find a carrier with $250,000 in coverage. Now, a lot of them have that now because of inflation, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot don't though. There's some that just still have 100,000, and that's fine. So if I'm going to get a carrier with $100,000, I'm going to go to our insurance department and say, hey, I need to get what we call shipper's interest insurance. And what that
Mm-hmm.
is I pay extra for a policy for that one run, but I have to get that for the full value of the product, not the difference between the 100,000 and the 150,000. So I get that
Right.
insurance
I
policy, and
get
if
that.
that carrier, Lord
I
forbid, gets in a wreck, ruins the cargo, runs it off in a ditch, sends it to Mexico, whatever they do, and it gets ruined or lost or whatever, then my shipper's interest pays that customer.
Mm-hmm. And except for when it's 11.5 million, and then they battle back and
Are you
forth
guys
in
there?
court for the next 5 years. Hello?
What happened? Oh,
Guys, I'm back though. I don't know if I broke up or if you wanted me to finish it, but
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear. Did you hear me say I go by contingent cargo? I mean, shipper's interest
Yeah,
cargo.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we got that.
Okay.
And then you put it on there, and then you said they cover it, and I said except for when it's 11.5
Yeah,
million, and
so
then they battle
that's
back
right.
and
So
forth in court for the next 5
where you're
years.
exactly right. So you're 100% correct. We found four things we agree on. All right. So
Yeah.
what they should have done is said, hey, this is obviously 11.5 million. We need to get shippers interest for 11.5 million. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then we need to take precautions. Was that the load, guys, that was stolen identity and some other carrier picked it up and it was a theft ring thing and it was lost?
Yep.
Okay. So then,
Yep.
you have
And it
that.
was stolen out of Florida, and obviously we know where it went.
Yeah, we all know where it went. So, and it wasn't to Montgomery, Alabama, right? So,
No.
uh, so what they should have done, and anyone can play, you know, uh, Monday morning quarterback, but this is a pretty big move. They should have gotten a shipper's interest policy. They also,
Yeah.
I would hope, would have had standard operating procedure that said we want a picture of the driver's license of the driver. We send the rate confirmation blind where no one knows where to pick up. The driver has to call in. We need a picture of the side of the truck, and the shipper needs to verify that's who's picking it up. That's
Oh, I'm sorry. There should have been more than that
and
to
then
it. There should have been a complete criminal background for anybody picking up those loads, and they should have had a network of people that picked up those loads. 11.5
yeah,
million.
you're
I mean,
right.
let's
You're
be
right.
real.
I don't. You're
That's not normal
No,
shit.
it's not. And you're exactly right. Which leads back to what I try to do. Now, again, I just told you guys we go to DAT when we have to, we go to Internet Truck Stop when we have to. But my
Mm-hmm.
job and my team's job as a broker is to provide quality carriers to our customers. I cannot provide quality carriers to my customers paying someone 80 or 90 cents or $1.20 a mile or whatever, cheap ass freight, right?
No,
We can agree
you
on
can't.
that. So to provide quality
Mm-hmm.
carriers, I have to build a network of carriers and build relationships with carriers. Pardon the redundancy, what I've said two or three times, freight that they need
No,
and
I mean
want.
that's all fine,
And then you build
as long as you're
relationships.
not
And hey,
like.
I know David's picking up the load, and I know David's got two kids, and I know David lives in Huntsville, Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been married
I
22
agree.
years, and he's got a SunTech pin and a SunTech hat. And I bought him
I
coffee
totally
last
agree.
time I saw him. I guess that's illegal now. I didn't know, but anyway.
I mean, no. If you got a friend relationship and you go out to coffee, that's one thing, right? That's. I mean, we're being ridiculous now. But these brokers that are going out and getting football games so they can get a multi-million-dollar contract, they're the problem. That's who's actually doing it. What the hell keeps on happening to you? You keep on dropping.
I have no
Can you
idea.
hear me?
I figured you might have written a code to cut me off. I don't know.
No. We might have somebody else that's written code to cut us off though.
Yeah, I
yeah.
have no idea.
So yeah, we've got haters. Don't worry about it. One of them was just that one that I just talked about, and when I was saying names and stuff like that, that was the person that I said he put on us was actually the one that I was talking about. That's Narc, but he's in for a rude awakening too because, like I said, you piss a coder off. I don't care if you're a coder. You're going to find out that there's a war that's going to happen, and it already started, and he doesn't like it. But anyway, we'll get out of that conversation right now. But yeah. So
I don't know where I cut off, and the 10-second version though is this is why working with carriers that you have relationships is important.
yeah, and I said I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And like I said before, it doesn't sound to me like you're a bad broker that we're talking about. Who we're talking about is people that go out, get these loads, and then take what they want out of it. It seems like you understand that you need to stay in a certain margin, and you're asking your customer for that margin so that you can give your carrier a fair rate, which is probably above the market rate. I mean, let's be honest. You're not moving these loads for $2 a mile.
And it really sounds like you're a freight forwarder anyway.
Yeah, as well. So you're not just a freight broker.
Well, I can give you extremes on both sides of pricing. I can tell you a price that would make you mad, where I had to get freight I had to move freight for a shipper in Miami because they were giving us 20 loads a month, and in February we have to take loads that pay, stupid money, $1.10 a mile. And then I can give you examples where a customer called at the last minute and they were willing to pay, I'm just making numbers up, guys, $4 or $5 a mile. And we had a carrier in the area and he was trying to get home and he moved it and we made, 15%, and he got paid a killing and we made good money and everyone was happy. So I've got both
Yeah.
sides. There's always outliers. When you do it the way your guys are going to do it, there'll still be outliers. We
Yeah.
take loads every single month from customers that we lose money on. Am I cut off again?
Yeah. Well, no,
See,
I
and
don't think so anyway.
that's what needs to change is these brokers taking high percentages on certain loads and then taking the loss on others. If
Yeah,
it
I mean,
does
it needs to be the
not
same across the
cover,
board. This
if it
We
does
take
not
lo-
cover
this
the
is
cost to operate for the carrier, don't take the load. Whether
yep.
you're a
It doesn't make
broker
any
or a
sense
carrier
because that's just racing
or
the
a
ship to the bottom.
dispatcher, it goes all across the
That's
board.
just that's what's ruined the industry is, they know how much capacity is in the area.
They do.
Let's go back to the days of DAT, when it was originally dial a truck, a
Right.
black monitor.
Right.
You were driving back then, I'm sure. Okay, a black monitor at a Flying J or
Right. You look up
TA
there
or
on the screen.
or
Right.
yeah, you look up there. They got 15 phones. You call them. You got a rate that you guys negotiated on. Why? Because they didn't have the technology. Now they've forced us to have these ELDs and they started using this technology. So we're fighting against that. You cannot be charged for something that hurts your business. Okay. That's constitutional. So we are fighting these things, and they're either going to stop allowing these companies to use it for that and only use it for what it is intended for, to track us through the federal government, nobody else, or they're going to have to take them away. And that's how we're going to get rid of the ELDs. Like I said, we're working in different areas that most people don't even expect. And the broker had the choice a long time ago to shut me down, because if everybody went back to work, well, I'm just one person screaming in the street. But they continued doing what they were doing until it became a real problem.
Well, the tracking is a lot of demands from shippers, especially large shippers.
It won't matter. It will not matter. They'll have to develop another system that doesn't track us all the time, because what they're doing is actually against the Constitution and against our privacy rights.
So
So
when
we are fighting it.
I'm asking this out of ignorance because I don't know a lot about tracking and how it works. I heard you mention earlier it tracks you forever until you cut it off or cancel the app on
Mm-hmm.
your phone or delete it, I guess. So
All of
when
those.
you sign,
Yeah.
you can probably use this is going to give you some ammo to use against me. I've never set up tracking on my phone just to see how it worked. So with that being said, are you signing away your rights uh, when you how does that? I mean, I'm sure I accept. How
When
does that work on those
when you're
apps?
Okay.
using
If you're
highway
hauling a load,
or
it yeah
RMIS, yeah, you are.
yeah, because they are demanding access to your ELD,
Right.
which we are forced to have by the
Right.
FMCSA.
Unless it's a
So that
2000
makes it
model or younger, right?
unconstitutional. No, that's actually being overridden
Oh,
too.
is it
Every
really?
truck will have it.
That's breaking
Yes,
news
it
to me. When
is.
did that change?
That's actually going to happen. What am I doing?
Did you post me out there?
No, I thought you had me let the
Man, you
dogs
got to
out and the
close the
gates
gate.
open.
What is going on over there?
I know, right?
So wait just a second.
No,
ELD that's getting overridden. I didn't know that.
no. The exemption for 2000 and older is getting overwritten. They're going to run it straight off of the speed control module, whether or not that is a cable or whether or not that is just a sensor. So they will be able to run it off of that, and they've already got the system. It needs a positive, a negative, and that wire.
So
That's it.
is that going to place pretty soon?
25. Yep.
Oh wow! So it'll go into this
2025.
year,
By the end of
2025
this
this year.
year. By the end
Okay,
of this
Yep.
year is what they're saying. Yes.
and it's already
Yep.
passed. That's a done deal. We're just waiting on the end of the year.
The FMCSA has already figured out how to do it, and they're implementing it now.
Okay.
So
Wow.
all trucks will have it, and all people that are making money because they're able to run cheap freight for until their tires fall off, they're going out of business too. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are going to be against the broker, right? The whole are you an employee or are you a
Subcontractor,
independent?
right?
That's going against the broker, because who's that going to affect? Large carriers. So all of the people that are leased on, not no more. All the lease options, not no more. There were 9 people that left and were supposed to go investigate. We're not in agreement. When they returned to Congress and said the whole system needs to be revamped. It's all predatorial.
So you're talking about
Every
like
bit
these
of it.
companies that lease to own these trucks
Yep.
to owner operator.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
Yep. That's going bye-bye.
Yeah,
And the
the
lease
lease
on.
program and
The lease on.
leasing onto the authorities.
Like you own a truck,
Like
you
bring
lease
in
it on
your
to
own
Warner.
truck.
Yeah.
All
Hmm.
right, so
Bye-bye.
guys, so here's another question. I'm bombing you guys with questions. I came on here to tell y'all
Yeah.
how brokerage worked, and I'm asking you 9 million questions. So here we go. So all right, let's talk about so a few things, and I'm not to get into details. You have that going away. You have the ELD 2000 below mandate. It looks like they're going to have beat. To your point, you said they're going to have something where they can monitor that. So they'll basically have ELDs if you have a 1999 Freightliner or whatever, a road
Yep.
commode, and it's going to have an ELD whether you like it or not. You have
Yep.
to be able to speak English. Arkansas is already wearing them out on that, putting them out of service or whatever. You're not going to come in with foreign CDLs, right? Didn't you mention that?
Yep.
That's 4 things. Then we have the beginning.
There's actually a bill in the House that's making the English mandate
Right,
Nationwide.
for
right.
federal too.
I think I don't see how anyone on this in this conversation can disagree with that. It's cool to be able to understand someone. All right. Uh, then you have
Well, that is cool to understand the sign that said,
yeah,
exit
yeah,
closed
where you
ahead.
don't
Please
run
do
off the
not
road and kill
exit.
someone. Yeah, I think your point's
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
mine. Right, I'll give you that. So
Yeah.
you've got that. So that's 4 main. You're talking about disruption in the industry. That's going to be 4
Yep.
obviously main disruptors that, from the outside, without little thought or study, would seem to create a little
Better.
capacity crunch. I'm saying it. I say a
Yep.
little, right? Uh, which would obviously cause rates to go up from just a supply and demand standpoint, unless the economy just tanks.
And that's kind of what I told you,
Yeah.
is it's not there anymore. See, what you don't understand is I'm calling all of the MCs that are registered in the database for the help me out here, census list, right? So that means all of
There you
them.
go.
They're telling me they're out of business, or they're going out of business, or they don't know that they can pay their insurance. I'm not getting any results saying, hey, yeah, I want to join up. I'm getting results saying that I'm not having a truck anymore. So brokers are in for a rude awakening, as I told you at the beginning of
I
this
don't
whole space,
disagree
and
with
you're
you that
like,
rates are going to go up. I don't disagree at all. Like I said before, we
but
agree
there's no
on.
trucks. It doesn't matter how much they go up. There's no trucks. And people are so mad that they're like, you know what? If they want me to haul the load, they'll call me. They can find me on the FMCSA webpage. I don't care. If they're like me, they'll never haul another brokerage load.
The
They've been done wrong.
there's probably going to be some. I just do not see, like, we drop trailers, we rent trailers and drop. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into play. We
Mm-hmm.
bring stuff.
I
You
know.
bring stuff in on ships. You transload it at the port. Da da da. When it berths, take it and
Yep.
cross. I mean, there's more to this than 40,000 carrier. Or I'm just making a number up. Obviously, getting mad will there be change? I don't disagree with you at all. I think the difference in opinion is going to be based on how much and how quick. And it goes back to you mentioned earlier, trucks driving themselves, autonomous drive, all this self-driving crap. What was the company in Arizona or New Mexico, Arizona that went out just a few months ago that
Mm-hmm.
filed bankruptcy? By the way, no one will get money, just for the record. Uh,
Yeah, probably.
what was the name of them? All this self-driving crap. We're never going to need people again.
I don't know, and
But
we usually have another guy in here. He knows the name of that company, but
but you
we're not really following that right now. But what we can tell you is,
Aurora?
yeah, Aurora Logistics. Anyway, so what we can tell you though is that Load Smith, okay, ordered 800 of those trucks to be delivered this year. So it's not something that's not happening, right?
Oh,
They've
you're
already
talking
put
about
4 million.
Nicola that
Nikola,
went
yeah.
yep
out.
yep
Okay.
yep. That's
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So to go on from there, all right, and we're gonna have to wrap this up because we usually are at an hour and a half, and we're way over an hour and a half, and my wife's
Yeah,
looking at me
we're at
like,
like 4 hours.
And you've left the gate open. You're in
we're
double
not at
trouble.
4 hours. Yeah, but anyway, so basically, you got all these companies that are actually ordering these trucks, right? So they either are assuming something's going to happen, or we're going to have a lot of the mega carriers going bankrupt here real quick. So what what kind of crunch is that going to put on the industry? You've got the lease operators, the lease on operators, the non-speaking citizens. You can't bring in HB2 visas anymore or H2B visas anymore. You can't do any of that. And then on top of that, you've got all these people going to go bankrupt because they bought these high-end trucks that are never going to be used, according to everybody that says that, it's not happening. So what kind of crunch would that put on it if it didn't actually happen?
So I see your point. I can't disagree with it. I just don't see it all happening really, really fast. I think there's going to be somewhere in the middle. And I think as a broker, there's a lot of things I can't control. You know,
I think as a broker, you better keep good relations
well,
with your truck drivers
sure.
because
And you know what? Unfortunately, some of those truck drivers I've seen go out of business. And you're
yep,
going to see more, which is what you said earlier. So I keep saying to your point, but
yep,
to your point again, there's going to be more of that. Here's what I can
yep.
do as a broker. I can do what it says to do on my door. I can come to work every day. I can serve my customers, my former team members, and my carriers. Not in that order. In fact, it's the opposite order. It says on the door. But I can't control what Federal Motor Carrier Safety. I can send in the little mild request on their board. My comment. I can have conversations with you guys. I cannot control macroeconomics. I cannot control monetary policy. I cannot control the current administration, and I can't control what certain groups of people want to do. I can pivot. I can pivot as a broker. Do I think rates are going to go up? Yeah, they're going to go up. Can I pivot with that? Yeah. Will I be able to be profitable when they go up? If they go up really quick, really fast, there'll probably be a few weeks where I can't. I plan for that. But I will work from a position of strength and eventually get to where I can. So as a broker, I have to be willing to pivot. I keep a Blockbuster video card in my wallet. Do you know why?
Go ahead. Why?
Because Blockbuster Video didn't change with the times. And what happened to Blockbuster Video? There's one in Alaska now. Remember Blockbuster Video? You
Yeah,
go out on Friday night, get a pizza, and do all that. You can't do that now.
yeah.
So I
You,
don't
you
want.
know who changed that? You know who
Well,
changed that?
Redbox, yeah.
Redbox.
So
Did you know Redbox walked in the door and said, "Hey, I have an
and they
idea,"
made fun of it,
and
and they made
Blockbuster
fun of it.
laughed him out
Yeah,
the door?
they laughed. They
Yeah,
laughed.
and they've done the same
I
thing to me.
understand. I understand.
So
That's why. Hey, keep in mind, I'm the guy that's asked you 9 million questions about it. Not in a challenging
yeah,
format, just wanting to know if you've got holes in your plan and what you've got a plan to.
I'm sure I
Yeah,
do. Again, like I said, we started
and
this out looking at it as we were going to go get carriers to help carriers get loads and fuck the broker. That was what our initial goal was. When we started looking into it, started putting it together, started looking at paperwork, started actually doing things, we said, oh shit, we have to have a brokerage. Okay, well, the brokerage is going to have the money for the bond and this, that, and the other, and all this other shit. So how much do we need? And we said, okay, well, let's try 2%. Now, understand, If we start making money hand over fist with the brokerage is going to get minimized because the whole point is to put all the money back into the truck driver's pocket. Like, we are fighting the brokerage. I mean, I'll be honest with you, right? We're building a system that puts the money back in the truck driver's pocket. Now, if there's any added expenses, it's going to pull a little bit of that out, but they're going to see what it's going for, and that's a tax deduction for them, right? And I'm building the system that literally, you know, if you fuck over a broker that, you know, pay them your money, there might not be another broker that actually calls you if they're smart enough to use my system. So, you know, I'm making the judge, jury, and executioner for the trucking industry. You have a trucking company that decides to leave a driver stranded somewhere, right? What other driver is going to go drive for that company if they use the system? And like I said, Freight Slaughter is, well, I'm releasing it tonight, just so people know. The link's going up on the webpage, and it will be released tonight or tomorrow morning. It's free. Go use it. Complain away. Just need evidence.
So, do you upload the evidence? I'm guessing, or I guess I can look.
Yes, you do. It comes to the backside to me. I call the people. I get their story because, see, I'm not Carrier 411. I'm giving everybody the opportunity to do it. If a carrier thinks that they're just going to use this as a punishment for a broker not giving them a load, well, guess what? You're going to end up on Freight Slaughter yourself for a false freight slaughter. Like, I'm cleaning the industry up. I'm done with the shit.
All sides of it. All sides of the
Yep.
industry.
If an insurance company won't pay a legitimate claim, they're going up. If people use it, they won't use that insurance company. And they can't do nothing to me because I've got the proof. I'm not slandering you. I'm just putting up what is actually factual. Just giving everybody else access to it. Unlike Carrier 411, that only gives a broker access.
Well,
No, shippers have access to it too.
yeah, but what that does is it slow.
shippers
When you
now?
give one side access and another, it slowly discredits the platform.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody's got access. You got an internet
to make comments.
connection.
I'm not saying I said that wrong.
Right.
Right. If I only give one side of
No,
voice, then you know how long does that last? That it work.
Well, 100%. That's what I said. As a broker, you can make a comment that a customer didn't pay you. If they're still in business, they're probably not going to be for long. And it can never be taken down. It can be resolved. I'm giving you one chance. When I call you personally and say, this is what has been put up, what say you? That's it. That's your one chance. If you can say, hey, that was legitimate, he did this, this, and this, okay, send me the proof.